And man, it's going to be a hot one today, 98 degrees. We're going to be covering not only the weather and the heat happening here, but also all the political spiciness. Benjamin Netanyahu on the floor of Congress yesterday, I thought was an absolutely fantastic speech. And then later in the evening, Sleepy Joe got up and gave a speech. So we'll cover all of this, a whole lot more in just a second. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. Most of the time, it's pretty crazy, too. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get the coffee brewing this morning, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. Coming up a little bit later in the show, Joshua Sharf with the Independence Institute is going to join us, give us a little analysis on what he thought of Benjamin Netanyahu's speech. And then did you see the protests outside of Union Station? The removing of the American flag, the raising of the Palestinian flag. There was graffiti, at least 23 people arrested. There probably should have been a lot more. Eventually, Mike Johnson and a number of other congressmen went down and raised the American flag late last night. So we'll cover all of that. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, Zyn, the little pouches of nicotine that Tucker Carlson likes so much. Well, Philip Morris is building a $700 million facility here in Aurora. But some people don't like the fact that Colorado seems to be incentivizing all these vices. Luke Niforatos, Executive Vice President of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, has an opinion piece in the Sentinel talking about that as well. So lots of issues to cover. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Anytime you mention Luke, that's a good thing. Good morning, Billy. 61 as the sun rises in Denver, expecting a high of 95 today as the smoke from Canada hopefully clears today or tomorrow as it's supposed to cool down a little bit. The 710 5-day forecast coming up, our top story.
We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy?
President Biden whispered or addressed the nation after, air quotes, dropping out of the race for the first time. He talked to the country. He said, the best way forward for the country is to pass the torch to a new generation. Amazing how he didn't know this a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
The best way right now is for the corruption to be exposed.
That's right.
Right, Jeff?
Well, Blake, that line, I'm so glad you picked out that line, because if you go back to the George Stephanopoulos interview, the most kind of hot heart shot that I think George Stephanopoulos had towards Joe Biden was when he asked him if he's just staying in for selfish reasons.
Yes.
And he didn't have a really good answer. And I think Joe sat there, and that was probably the question that stuck around and bounced around in Joe Biden's head for a while before he finally decided he needed to step out. So to hear him reference that notion again,
yeah, that's true.
I think that was probably it.
Yeah, probably was. It's still chaos in the streets and chaos in government right now, and in politics. Former President Obama planning to endorse VP Kamala Harris soon. He's one of the few prominent Democrats who's yet to endorse Harris by design. She missed Bibi and Netanyahu's incredible speech on Capitol Hill.
America and Israel must stand together. Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
Meanwhile, Hamas supporters, as Jeff just mentioned, running around the streets of D.C. acting a fool, burning American flags, raising hell and Palestinian flags.
On October 7th, most of those people were killed by Israeli forces using the Hannibal Directive. Hello, wake up!
Are we ready? Are we ready?
And yeah, great. The House Speaker Johnson went and raised the American flag afterward. FBI Director Wray trying to answer questions about what happened in Pennsylvania almost 2 weeks ago in the assassination attempt of Trump. Remember that? And then from the No Way Department, there could be a problem with terrorists on the southern border.
There's been a lot of focus on numbers of this, numbers of that. It doesn't take very many foreign terrorists to be a real problem. We have investigations as we speak that relate to ISIS and its affiliates. We have investigations as we speak that relate to Al-Qaeda. There's been a lot of focus on the number of known or suspected terrorists encountered at the border. And that number has increased over the last 5 or 6 years, and that should be of concern.
How about the last 3 years? Wow. It is just incredible. House Republicans have passed a bill that would slash funding for the Environmental Protection Agency by 20%. The bill is unlikely to pass in its current form in the Democrat-controlled Senate. Cybersecurity from CrowdStrike is promising to do better after a faulty software update caused a global computer outage last Friday. The company now says it plans to improve software tests moving forward. NORAD says that it scrambled fighter jets Wednesday to intercept 2 Russian Tu-95 Bear bombers and 2 Chinese H-6 bombers off the coast of Alaska. NORAD says the Russian and PRC aircraft remained in international airspace and did not enter American or Canadian sovereign airspace. Nikola Jokic's brother has been charged with assault after he hit a fan at Ball Arena during the Nuggets-Lakers playoff game in April. Video of the incident appears to show Strahinja Jokic punching a man in the stands. We saw that a few months ago. Investigators say the man suffered a concussion along with cuts and bruises around his eye. Jokic has an arraignment set for August 21st. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Broncos training camp kicked off. Wide receiver Cortland Sutton on the field. And the Rockies steamroll the Red Sox 20-7. They have won 5 of 7 at San Fran tomorrow night. 20 runs. 56 in Louisville, 58 in Englewood, 61 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue just underway. It is Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, more smoky haze, temperatures mid to upper 90s, lows tonight mid to upper 60s. Will be in the lower 90s, a pretty good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms returning to the Front Range Friday into Friday evening. A good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms Saturday, low 90s, low 60s, isolated thunderstorms, low 90s Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can guarantee payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent.
Billy, we had proof of life last night.
Yeah, we did. Everybody was worried. Everybody was asking questions.
You know, there was kind of this bizarre thing circling conservative X that, and you know, Charlie Kirk had mentioned, and I'd even retweeted it because it seemed plausible that there was this medical emergency that took place in Las Vegas in early July.
Yep.
When Biden claimed he had COVID. And what they cited was basically some police officers, I think about a half dozen police officers saying, like, all of a sudden plans changed. Yeah. They raced to the airport. They put him on an airplane and they flew really quickly back to Delaware. And everything just seemed really intense. Like there was some type of medical emergency happening. So the past few days, conservative Twitter was recirculating, you know, this idea of just the president even alive. And you know, hold up a newspaper.
Which again it was funny because early on in that conspiracy theory, I was reading it and I thought, oh, make me sad. Because again, it was a demonstration of people that don't understand science. And we've talked about this before. It's kind of a theme that I've got, that as a culture, we have decided that science isn't cool and we don't want to know about it, despite the fact that science doesn't care. And the world's going to keep changing and things are going to happen regardless of whether or not you know anything about it. You don't have to know anything about gravity. You jump off the building, you're still going to fall to the bottom. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's one of those things that misunderstanding the law doesn't mean you don't have to obey the law. Sorry. And early on, they were talking about it being a TIA, which is a very minor And again, the idea, but what were they sitting on? They were sitting on, he had a stroke. What you think of visually with the stroke is vastly different than what a TIA is. TIA is something that is very minor. In fact, TIA is what Peter Boyle suffered here in that studio you're sitting in, that chair you're sitting in.
Oh yeah,
he's fine. Nothing at all.
Wow.
Yeah, you wouldn't sit there and say Pete had a stroke with your interactions when you listen to him on Saturdays here on KNUS. You wouldn't go, Pete has a stroke.
Just a smart.
Yeah, but that was a TIA. That's what he had because people don't understand what it means and what it does physically and how it impacts you. And it's a short-term type of thing, but it really is a red flag of larger potential medical issues. So it is a concern, but the idea that you would be able to see anything in Biden because of it is ridiculous. But again, we don't care about science. We don't care. All we wanted to grab onto was stroke. He had a stroke, so he can't be. Oh my God. And then how quickly did it go from stroke to dead? And like, wow, this is crazy. It's as bad as when you played telephone in third grade.
And that's a good example of it because then it was, you know, the chief of staff is racing to his side.
Exactly.
And they're offsetting.
Yeah. Now,
responsibilities to other cabinet members.
Now, with a TIA, would he need medical treatment fairly immediately? Yes. The one thing that makes me think that the TIA issue is not true is the airline flight. That is not something you really would want to put someone that has just recently had something a medical event like
pressurized
that.
cabin.
That's why, is because it can exacerbate it. So that's
a really
the issue.
Good point.
Yeah. So again, we don't care about science. If we had known stuff about TIA and stroke and we had been educated and worried about how the human body works, we would know this. But No, it didn't matter. We just said TIA, and they're going to fly him because he's dying and he's a stroke. And no, he's actually on the casket on Air Force One. And yes, and they're going to weekend Bernie's him, and it's going to be the Walking Dead, and they've got the virus because that's what the COVID thing really was. It was actually a zombie virus, and they're bringing him back to life, and it's going to be zombie Biden running. And yeah,
so you will get some folks that'll go, well, that was fake Joe Biden or robot Joe Biden,
that's my
or
favorite. We have people
AI Joe Biden.
Yeah, we've had people been saying that for 3 years.
Yeah,
Biden's been
but
dead for 3 years.
The reason I don't think it is because his performance was actually pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
So if you're going to fake it, don't you want him to look good?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why would you fake it to where he looks bad? And you heard a little bit of the audio of his speech, but here's kind of how he just kind of came across.
Yeah.
When you elected me to this office, I promise to always level with you, to tell you the truth. The truth. Sacred cause of this country is larger than any one of us. Those of us who cherish that cause, cherish it so much. A cause of American democracy itself must unite to protect it.
So to me, it came across as low energy.
Oh, absolutely.
As a guy that was, especially when you compare it to Benjamin Netanyahu's speech, which I mean, he was Churchillian yesterday in Congress, but it came across as low energy, a man reflecting on a long career in politics. I mean, a long career. Dana Perino said that it was a mix of a political speech, a mini State of the Union. She said he came off as resentful, outlining his accomplishments, both real and imagined, though well short of great presidents who have sat behind the desk before him. I don't know if it came across as resentful, as just kind of tired.
Yeah, and I can see where she's trying to go with the resentful. I think that he is upset that it's coming to this at this point. That I honestly think that in his mind, if this was going to be the path, it should have been a year ago, and that's what I've been saying. So again, it could just be me being biased. It could just be confirmation bias, and I'm like, what I'm seeing confirms what I already believe. So I could be completely and totally wrong about this, but I think also he is struggling with this end not being based on his choice.
Boom.
Yeah,
that's exactly right, Billy.
That's the problem. It's the idea of when you see the John Elway walking away and retiring versus someone who's been cut from the Broncos.
Yep.
That press conference is totally different.
Yeah,
the Russell Wilson press conference is totally different than the John Elway press conference. Those are totally different press conferences. And I think that's it. You have to have an ego to say, I want to be the most powerful leader in the free world.
Yes.
There has to be an ego involved there. And his ego's hurt.
I have learned over the years in politics that the people that reach that level, it's like they're missing a little switch in their head.
Yes.
And do you remember the guy who climbed the Yosemite cliff face?
Yeah, and did it
with Alex Horton, I think, or something his name was. And they scanned his brain, and they're like, "You are actually missing the component of fear."
Yeah,
like everybody else. Because I remember watching it, and I knew the dude lived.
Yeah,
but when he does that one move, move, I was in a plane sweating.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
the guy
it's not even you. Yes,
it's not even me, and I knew he lived.
I know.
So I have come to learn that I think that the people that reach that level, there's two things going on. One is that they're missing that ability to take all the criticism and have it affect them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
If I had overwhelming, if I was trending on Twitter, I'd be calling my wife, going,
what the hell is this?
What are we gonna do with
exactly?
this?
What do we do with this one?
So most people can't do that. And then secondly, this just unbridled passion towards politics. I saw this with Arlen Specter.
Oh, really?
You remember Arlen Specter?
Yeah.
From Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Okay, so Arlen Specter's entire life was this stuff.
Really?
It was his entire life.
Wow.
So you remember he was a Republican. He loses, becomes an independent, loses, becomes a Democrat, loses, and within about 9 months, dies.
Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about the timeline. You're right.
He went on this trajectory of like, please, anything. Put me into office.
Yeah, this is.
And then when he couldn't have it, it's like he had no purpose in life. I think you're going to see that with Joe.
I think you will too. I think there's going to be a transition. Hopefully it's not 9 months, but yeah, I think there's going to be a transition. And the next time we see Joe in public, we're going to be going, who's the Jimmy Carter cosplay guy? I think that's how quickly it's going to go, because even in the last 12 months, the degradation has been surprising, because even in interviews, he wouldn't go off on these weird tangents. And the thing that I've been noticing, we talked about a little bit yesterday, was at the end of his answer, he seems to try to connect non sequiturs. He knows there's other stuff that he can bring in, but he can't make the connection. Yeah. He can't get there quickly enough. And that's difficult. But yeah, I saw a guy there that had to come out and say, yeah, today the Broncos cut me, and then have to talk to the press about it. And that's why it was. That's short,
a great description, Bill.
That's why it was short.
Steve texted in. He wasn't aware that you, in addition to a law degree, have now a medical degree.
No, not a medical degree, but when Pete suffered what he went through here, I did a lot of research about it and why. Because of what happens there, because the idea was he's going to be back in the studio, or next time I work with him, I better know what I'm seeing. That morning I saw something was wrong. We all knew something was misfiring. You could see it was as if a cylinder was misfiring for just a little bit, and you saw it going on, and we needed to call the EMTs. And so the ambulance showed up here and came into the studio. And that was one of those things that after watching that, I felt, I better know what the hell I'm seeing next time.
Yeah,
this is something I better know. So yeah, would I be able to diagnose you? No way, shape, or form. Don't come inside. If I tell you to come into my office and ask you to get disrobed, do not do that. It's a bad idea. Do not take that suggestion. However, I can discuss what it does and what the implications are. So, and also had to do that recently because of a medical issue that one of my in-laws is going through, and they had to do an international flight. And so that's where I learned the instances about the decompression side of the airplane and what that does when you're going through those type of things like strokes, aneurysms, other things, thrombosis, how that can change blood pressure and what it does inside the body. So again, not a doctor, just a nerd who, when I am confronted by these things, goes and read, because that's how I'm
somebody
wired.
Who stayed at a Holiday Inn last night.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's weird because it's a slightly, I mean, I hate to say it out loud this way, but it is very slightly on the autistic spectrum that I have this desire to absorb. Once I find out a topic, I have this desire to absorb it, and I have to get to the bottom of the hole, and I can't stop. It is a desire that I have that cannot be quenched until I get to the bottom of the hole, and I feel like I'm there. I'm like, okay, now I can move on to the next thing, but I can't stop until then. And it is a slightly autistic behavior. Yeah.
Jay from Louisville, all he had to do last night was sit and read a teleprompter.
Yep.
But he's looked so bad because the bar was so low, or he looked so good because the bar was so low. I mean, he looked a little painted too.
Yeah, he did.
All embracing the Donald Trump.
Yes, that's the thing that I've been noticing too. I'm kind of like, you've been talking about Orange Man for years, and now, dude, you're doing the spray tan? I'm like, and the thing is, the spray tan's fairly obvious. Yeah.
So here's a question I got for you and for our listeners. What are the next 6 months going to look like? One of the things I wondered was whether or not Joe Biden was going to retire last night and basically give Kamala Harris a 6-month run, right? In my mind, if he really wanted to set her up well, let her be the president, let people see her be presidential, and that'll help her in the November election. I thought that might be coming. I thought there might be maybe like a 40-60% chance, but nope. He's gonna serve 6 more months because he loves to be the president.
Yeah, he is. And I think personally, I bet it's going to be the question about the vice president. Is that how, depending on how he steps away and when and what happens, what is the process for picking a new vice president? I think is what keeping him in the office right now. The other part, though, is if he's in the office, that frees Kamala up to campaign.
Yeah,
if she's out campaigning, it would be, why isn't she in the White House? And if she's in the White House, it would be, why isn't she campaigning? So it would be, a devil's choice. There's no way she would ever be able to make the right choice in some people's mind. However, what I do think you're going to see in the next 6 months is if the Democrats are smart on strategy, they will bring her out for all the big events. Yeah. When Joe Biden has to do something big, she's going to be there with him.
Dinners.
Yep. And he'll do a speech and she'll do a speech. Mm-hmm. They'll do that combination thing back and forth. That's why, like, if there was a press conference with Netanyahu post speech and stuff yesterday, if there was that usual formal thing where they stand on the other side of the stage and pretend like they can't touch each other for whatever reason, I don't understand that. But if they did that kind of a thing, then I think she shows up yesterday, because she then gets to stand on that stage and do the hey, yes, we're so happy, and she gets to pretend. I think for the next 6 months they're going to give her instances where she can cosplay as the president. But I could be completely and totally wrong. It would probably only be the 5th time so far this morning, because I thought that was their plan originally. I thought that's what they were going to do with her first, that Biden was going to be the 4-year transitional president, setting her up to, take over just like she's doing now, but they would integrate her more into what Biden was doing. But that didn't happen. So I could be completely wrong.
I think that what you'll see out of her for the next 6 months. Well, I want to talk first. I want to talk about the DNC.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of comments about how they're going to merge these. Yes. Washington Post was talking about this last night.
And the thing I want to know from you when we talk about this is the idea of, do they get her as the actual nominee before the convention, or they do the performance thing there? Do they have it all buttoned up beforehand or not? How does that work, and what would you like to do?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen beforehand. I think what you're going to see at the convention is Monday night. Thank you, Joe. Yeah. It's Joe's night. They're going to bring the family out. They're going to let Joe do the speech.
Yep.
And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the crescendo on Thursday. Yep. Kamala takes the stage.
It'll be passing the torch. Okay, over Biden's Monday speech. How long? What's your under/over on it? For me, if I want to do it, my under/over is and I hate to say this, I say 30, but I would be so much more comfortable with him right around 15 to 18. That's where I would be comfortable if I'm a speechwriter. But because of this being politics and the convention and the swan song, my under/over right now is 30. And I still think that's a risk. It's a big risk.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly the time that it'll be. Trump went way too long. Way too long. I don't get the meandering. And I know this is what he does at his rallies, and it's kind of fun. And I think you drink a beer and you sit and you listen to it. But it's not that entertaining.
Yeah, and not necessarily that engaging either.
And help me square a 90-minute speech. I think that's the length of his speech. A 90-minute speech with TikTok brains.
Yeah, and it was written at 55 to 58.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of extra stuff there, and that's it. Is there has to be, and we know and you talk about TikTok and the Twitters and the X's and things. We know that we have to get to that 30-second, 90-second soundbite. Is you need to look for that easy digestible, and that's not always President Trump's forte, and it sure isn't Biden's forte in any way, shape, or form. Kamala, a little more verbose, more on my side of the aisle than yours, but she does understand that turn of a phrase, but she wanders a little bit. Oh, here's a question. The Democrat National Convention. I believe Barack Obama has to show up.
Yes, Barry's got to speak.
Yes, the question, what night?
Yeah.
Now, I have an idea. Where would you stack him? Where
Tuesday.
would you put him? Tuesday? Why Tuesday?
Tuesday, because he'll bring in some attention.
Yeah.
But it's not the full, like if you look at the RNC, they crescendoed on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the theme was on Wednesday. Oh, they're all mixed together.
That was Welcome JD. That was Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it was just, let's all get Vance.
So that would be the VP pick. You'd have to do the VP pick for the DNC on Wednesday.
Yeah. So I think DNC would be Wednesday.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And I like the idea of getting the attention on Tuesday. See, for me, and again, I know nothing about that world, and you're much more intelligent than I am on this one, is I look at Obama making either the VP announcement or the introduction of Kamala. And I think that's where he gives the biggest push and gives a lot of, if he does the introduction for Kamala, it gets a lot of wind in her sails, but I can see what you mean about getting the attention for him on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a good, who rips off their shirt?
I know. That's the idea, is who does. Oh, yeah. Please don't make it be Hillary. Please not Hillary. So one person I don't want. So one person in the entire stage. I don't want that.
Thank you for a visual that will not get out of my head. All right.
Yes, eye bleach. And the Clintons got to show up too. And do they show up together or separately? I mean, there's so many interesting
Carter
things.
Show up?
Ooh. God, that would be nice.
Look, the Bushes, you had no Bush, no McCains, no Romneys. It was like a totally different party at the RNC.
It was. It really was. And I think the Democrats are going to go the other direction. It's going to be this line of succession type of a thing. It's going to be a Game of Thrones type of idea and presentation. I think that's where they're going to go with this one.
All right, when we come back in a second, I want to talk about what I think is a terrible line of attack on Kamala Harris, because they did the same thing with Barry Obama, and it didn't do a thing.
Ooh, you have my attention.
All right. I want to talk to you first about Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team with Keller Williams Sell. Look, if you have to sell your home here soon, or looking to sell and move and make some money off of the sale of your home, the only person that you should be calling is Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. First of all, she is delightful. She is like this just radiant sunlight that comes in. She's been in the studio multiple times. Delightful person. And when you're going through all the stress of having to sell your home, you've got the home inspection and negotiations and weird purchasers and all that stuff. You need somebody that's going to help you through that process. And make it as stress-free as possible. Number two, she believes in our values. She supports this radio station. She's very strong in her faith. She gives back to orphans in the state of Colorado because she was an orphan herself, raised with a great, loving, faith-based family that just poured into her. And she wants kids to be able to find that as well. So she gives back to them to help those orphans in Colorado. Number three, she's a titan. Look, we all got friends and family members that are and neighbors that are real estate agents, and they'll help us sell your home. But she has over 14,700 pre-approved buyers ready to make a purchase. So she gets her clients an average of $30,000 more than other real estate agents, and she sells homes 1.5 times faster. Could you use an extra $30,000? Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team today at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. As Americans continue battling high inflation, many agree that the price for a new car is too expensive. In New York, Haley Bianco has the story.
The average price for a new vehicle was $46,992 in the first quarter of this year. That's according to car experts at Edmunds. They've also rounded up the 5 cheapest options when it comes to buying a brand new car. They are the 2024 Versa, starting at $17,820. The 2024 Mirage, starting at $17,840. The 2024 Forte, starting at $21,145. The Venue, starting at $21,295, and the 2025 Track, starting at $21,495.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told US lawmakers that Americans protesting against the war in Gaza should be ashamed of themselves, going as far as labeling them as Iran's useful idiots. The incendiary remarks came during an address to a joint session of Congress, which a number of Democrats boycotted. Outside Congress, thousands protested the visit, with police deploying pepper spray to control crowds that burned a US flag. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joe Biden giving the speech yesterday. Low energy. What are the next 6 months going to look like, Billy?
I don't know.
For Joe Biden.
Yeah, I think it'll be a victory lap, and it should have been for the previous year. But again, I had seen someone yesterday talking about why Joe didn't step aside earlier, and the conclusion was because of political capital. And you'll understand this, that if he would announce 12 months ago, 18 months ago that he is a lame duck, then nobody in Washington has to listen to him. And so he wouldn't have been able to do X, Y, and Z over the previous year. What he's done, I'm not sure, but still, the idea is he wouldn't have been able to move certain things, and that the theory was that maybe even the Republicans in the House would have been able to steamroll the White House a little bit more and get more of what they wanted. So that's why he didn't do it. But I'm still not saying that, strategy-wise, that was the smartest thing, because it would have been much better for him to be doing the victory lap over the last year.
Do you think that Democrats can hold on to the notion of defending democracy through this whole process?
Yeah, I think
because
so.
Kamala Harris, I guess she won as vice presidential, so she's on the ticket.
Yeah.
But they just kind of coronated her.
Well, here's the thing, is the idea being that, and again, the delegates still do get to vote.
Yeah.
So there is still going to be a
the
vote of
delegates vote, but the people, the Democrats in a primary didn't.
I know that, but here's the idea, is neither party chooses their nominee based on direct representation.
Yeah.
And the idea is they all have a buffer. Gotta have a buffer. Gotta have that buffer. And so the idea is you want to have that buffer between the two. So the idea is these delegates, even if all of the Democrat voters, 100% voted Bernie Sanders, or let's just say AOC, the delegates can still go in and go, we choose Joe.
Yeah, they could. It's like the electors.
Oh, yeah, it is. And that's the idea. So this argument of, well, the Democrats are doing something democratic is somewhat silly, only because of how the system is in place. And it also forgets that the delegates get to vote. That was the question when Kamala was named as the apparent choice. Does she have the delegates? And then 24 hours, 48 hours later, she had amassed enough delegates to get all the, votes. That's right, votes. So it's weird when you say, or when the arguments are, they're not allowing democracy when the delegates still get to vote. The other problem with that one that's going to be really, really hard when you say, when the Republicans come out and say the Democrats aren't respecting democracy, that has the ability to remind everybody about the stolen election January 6th. And that's it, is because you have another party that actually fomented a plan to prevent the transfer of power. So it's making that argument against the other side is not good. You don't want to shine a light on your own warts. So I think it's a very weak argument to make. And I don't think that the vast majority of the electorate, even if you're a Republican, believes that. I don't think, because the idea being that if everybody came out and if MAGA wanted Donald Trump and the vast majority of Democrat or Republican voters came out and chose Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, and the party came in and chose and said, no, it's going to be Donald Trump. Same thing, same exact thing.
Well, they're back at it against each other, and the campaigns have kind of turned now to the knives and really going after each other. Here's Trump and Harris yesterday. Possibly.
Where is it? It's supposed to be there. I hope that's on.
Kamala Harris. I can't do it. I can't do a Trump impression.
Let me see. Hang on a sec. Let me see. I'm going to.
I really like
over here. Why is that?
See if we can play it.
Yeah, let me do this. Let me go over here. I'll tell you in a second when it's ready. Give me.
Okay.
I'm going to do the backup here in a second.
I do not think that Democrats actually believe they can win in November.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired. If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted. And just like crooked Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is unfit to lead. She's unfit to lead. She'll destroy our country. In a year, this country will be destroyed. A vote for Kamala is a vote for 4 more years of dishonesty, incompetence, weakness, and failure.
You know, when he was president, Donald Trump former president, handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court because he intended for them to overturn Roe v. Wade. The United States Supreme Court, previously the court of Thurgood and RBG. And as he intended, they did. Well, let me tell you something. When I am president of the United States, and when Congress passes a law to restore those freedoms, I will sign it into law.
Gives you a little flavor of how they're going to go. Billy, I mentioned prior to the break a line of argument that will not matter with the electorate because we tried it on Barry Obama in 2008.
Yes.
You ready for this one?
Yes, I am. What is it?
The most liberal senator in the Senate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that won't work.
We tried that, and I saw some conservatives pointing that out, and it's true. Kamala Harris is the most liberal senator in the Senate when she was in there. And we tried that against Barry, and the electorate didn't care.
Yeah, and I don't think the electorate's going to care on this one. It's not going to help because the Democrats are already viewed as being more liberal than the conservatives. So pointing out something they are doesn't necessarily help. And it was also interesting in the clip that you played there with Trump and Harris, the difference in the oration style.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, is going to be something that will also resonate in the next 6 months as well, because Kamala is a better public speaker than Joe is at this point in his life. And that is going to be a little bit different. And so we will see how this goes.
Billy, I went back and I watched, someone put a compilation together of Donald Trump's destruction of Jeb Bush during the debates.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
YouTube.
That would be interesting.
When Trump gets going, man, those DC folks, they still haven't quite figured out how to handle him. I'm fascinated. I really hope they get to a debate. All right. Coming up next, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Billy, let's do it. You choose the news.
Alrighty, despite everybody's suggestions, yes, once again, we are going to take our careers into our very little hands. And you choose the news. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? As nobody in charge has any idea that we are doing this. And a reminder, we are proudly not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. They do not want to have anything to do with something this ridiculous and frivolous this early in the morning, but they are a wonderful mother-son team that will come to your home, and they will solve the clutter in your kitchen, your bathroom, your garage. You got those shelves you can't get anything out of? RollEmOutShelves.com, free in-home estimate. All righty, Jeff Hunt, Blake Olson in the newsroom. Here are your choices this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, Rick Grimes approves. Headline number 2, will this make you shut up? Headline number 3, can you see me now? And headline number 4, fluency equals discount. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, can you see me now? In India recently, a villager had to go about committing a bunch of crimes because the officials couldn't see him. According to a report, the name of the criminal is Bahram Bul, and he is a resident of a tiny village. Unfortunately, the village had recently received a death certificate for him. He is proudly not dead. But the officials wouldn't listen to him. So in order to prove his definitely not deadness, he went out and committed not 1, not 2, but 6 different crimes over the course of a couple of weeks. Oddly enough, didn't do just regular crimes like stealing stuff. He went out and like tried to stab people and things. So did some serious stuff and danger. Yeah, like seriously attacking people. But yeah, he's like, nope, not dead. Look, I'm stabbing these people. Am I dead now? Can you see me now? So yeah.
Was it to get like to try to force him to take his DNA or something?
No, basically, well, he's just trying to say that I'm not. They had his death certificate, and the issue is he's also, oddly enough, and not surprisingly, suffering from some mental issues.
Yeah, right.
No way.
So yeah, so that's kind of it too. So
and who issued the death certificate? Somebody must have had a body.
Yeah, exactly. How did you possibly do this? But now he is being charged with the crimes, and the government said he's definitely not dead. So at least the solution has presented itself. Alrighty, Blake Olson, Rick Grimes approved. Will this make you shut up, or fluency equals discount?
Let's see. My wife said it last night. Will this make you shut up?
Yes. Will this make you shut up? That's what CrowdStrike wants to know. CrowdStrike is issuing apologies to millions of people that were upset when they did the whoopsie thing and shut down a lot of the Microsoft computers. And so they want you to shut up about CrowdStrike and just to be happy. So they're offering people that have been impacted a $10 Uber Eats gift card.
No.
$10. Yes.
$10.
To express their gratitude on your next cup of coffee or a latte or late night snack will be on them. That is
So
what they're sending
kind.
out. It even says they're sending heartfelt thanks and apologies for the inconvenience.
That
you get $10.
absolutely reeks of somebody in C-suite
Yes.
with no connection
Yes.
to the salespeople and the tech people who had to field the phone calls for the last.
Exactly. And what about it does say of the C-suite person going, give the poorest $10.
Right,
That'll make them
exactly.
happy.
That'll shut them up.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, back to my Cabo vacation.
I know, exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, you have any idea how difficult it is for me to park my small yacht inside of my bigger yacht? $10 for the poorest. Maybe a free pizza party on Saturday. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. All righty. Jeff, your final choice this morning, sir. Rick Grimes approves, or fluency equals discount?
Let's go to Ricky Grimes.
Rick Grimes approves of this one. This is a very interesting idea and maybe something that both Blake and Jeff should put on their shopping list. Yes, Costco wants to make sure that you are ready for the end of the world. Yes, they are now selling apocalypse-ready items. The brand new item that is available at the local Costco is an apocalypse food bucket. 150 servings, 25 years shelf life.
Well, I like that.
And at $80. So it's actually a really good deal.
That's I absolutely am the type of guy that buys that stuff.
It's a really good deal. It's in a black tub, red lid on top. It's the Ready Wise Emergency Food Bucket. They say in a world where unpredictability has become a constant, our assortment takes on the vital role of emergency preparedness. Is that imagine the sudden onset of a severe weather challenge, or unexpected job transitions, or just the unsettling thought of food shortages, or maybe that zombie apocalypse. Okay, might add the last one. But they say there are moments that we need a reliable source of sustenance, and this becomes a game changer. So it's 150 food pouches, a variety of flavors, such as something that tastes like chicken Alfredo, something maybe close to creamy pasta and vegetables, teriyaki rice if you've never had it before, cheesy macaroni just as good as mom didn't make, as well as some puddings, cereal, and an orange drink mix. Oddly not Tang. It's too bad for the astronauts.
There's a great Office episode where Dwight has to eat all of his expiring food preparation stuff.
That's it. So again, Costco wants to make sure you're ready for those zombies. Keep up your strength for when the zombies attack. Yes, go shopping today. That's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. That's enough of the silliness that we can take. We'll get back to the real stuff with Blake Olson, News Department. Back to you, sir.
When we come back, Joshua Sharf of the Independence Institute is going to give us some analysis on Benjamin Netanyahu's Churchillian speech yesterday. I thought it was fantastic. Nancy Pelosi, on the other hand, offended. We'll get into this and more. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
It's 7 a.m. in the Mile City, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up just after the news, Joshua Sharf, analyst with the Independence Institute, will be breaking down the speech given yesterday by Benjamin Netanyahu on the floor of the House of Representatives. An absolutely fantastic speech. Let me just give you a sense how much I love that speech. Here we go.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
And a huge line of applause after that. You compare that to Joe Biden's sleepy speech yesterday.
When you elected me to this office, I promise to always level with you.
The sleepy Joe Biden speech and the Churchillian Benjamin Netanyahu speech. I'm so excited to dive into this with Joshua Sharf. And then, of course, following that, we'll discuss the useful idiots that were protesting outside of Union Station and destroying monuments and ripping down the American flag and burning it yesterday. It was disgraceful. So we'll cover all of those activities with Joshua Sharf coming up here in just a second. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, Luke Niforatos with Smart Approaches to Marijuana is going to join us to talk about the new effort to bring Zyn, not sin, but Zyn with a Z. This is nicotine packets that Philip Morris produces. They're building a $700 million facility in Aurora. Is this the type of stuff we want coming to Colorado, or is it good jobs? We'll be talking with Luke Niforatos about that in the 9 o'clock hour. So lots of news, lots of commentary. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 63 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 95 today. Canadian smoke may clear out tomorrow. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
President Biden addressed the nation for the first time since, quote unquote, dropping out of the race.
It's not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have.
He's still the president for as long as he can last the next 6 months, which is still scary. Former President Obama planning to endorse VP Kamala Harris soon. He is one of the few prominent Democrats who's yet to endorse Harris by design. She missed Bibi Netanyahu's moving speech on Capitol Hill. He understands who is good and who is evil.
It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life. They dragged 255 people, both living and dead, into the dark dungeons of Gaza. Israel has already brought home 135 of these hostages, including 7 who were freed in daring rescue operations.
5 American hostages still there. John Cornyn from Texas says it's not right that Harris was not there.
Vice President of the United States has a responsibility to attend these speeches in the joint session in the House of Representatives. I have been here quite a while. I don't remember any occasion previously where the vice president hasn't shown up.
Meanwhile, Hamas supporters, nut jobs, creating more havoc at Union Station in D.C. They were protesting Netanyahu and Israel and raising hell, burning the American flag and flags, raising the Palestinian flag.
For all we know, Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building. Some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC.
No doubt.
That was such a great line.
Right? Wasn't that great? So Speaker Mike Johnson and a group of Republicans raised an American flag last night and said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Woo! Yeah. That's a good sign. FBI Director Christopher Wray in front of Congress. We still don't have answers to the stand down in Pennsylvania before the assassination attempt of former President Trump almost 2 weeks ago, if you can believe that.
We have tried to be transparent with both Congress and the American people as we're going along in the investigation, frankly, unusually so for an ongoing investigation, given the sheer nature of it.
Secret Service has their interim director, and he's one of the guys who is ultimately responsible for all the mistakes in Pennsylvania. Trump is unfortunately still not safe. Nikola Jokic's brother has been charged with assault after he hit a fan at Ball Arena during the Nuggets-Lakers playoff game in April. Video of the incident appears to show that Jokic's brother punched a man in the stands. Investigators say the man suffered a concussion along with cuts and bruises around his eye. Jokic has an arraignment set for August 21st. Westminster police investigating a series of home burglaries targeting local business owners. Investigators say the crooks followed the business owner's home and then used GPS trackers and hidden cameras to monitor the homes to see when the homeowners are away. The burglars wait until the homes are empty and then break in. Police say at least 8 burglaries in the area are linked, and 6 suspects have been arrested so far. However, police believe more suspects are still at large. Broncos training camp kicked off yesterday, and wide receiver Cortland Sutton is on the field. And let's see, we have the Rockies
coming into the game in the month of July. High fly ball, deep left field, way back. Take a good look, you won't see it for long. How about a grand slam for Brett Doyle?
Brenton Doyle, his first career grand slam. The Rockies steamroll the Red Sox 20-7. So 3 touchdowns and they missed the extra point. 20-7 over the Red Sox. They've won 5 of 7 at San Fran tomorrow night. 58 in Castle Rock, 59 in Broomfield, 63 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, more smoky haze, temperatures mid to upper 90s, lows tonight mid to upper 60s. Will be in the lower 90s, a pretty good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms returning to the Front Range Friday into Friday evening. A good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms Saturday, low 90s, low 60s, isolated thunderstorms, low 90s Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can guarantee payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Absolutely fantastic speech yesterday by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who addressed a joint session of Congress Wednesday afternoon, still embroiled in a war started by Iran-backed Hamas terrorists on October 7th. With the slaughter and kidnapping of innocent people, Netanyahu emphasized that Israel's current fight against those who wish its elimination is not a clash of civilizations, but a clash between barbarism and civilization. Joining us to provide some analysis is good friend of the show, Joshua Sharf from the Independence Institute. Joshua, thanks for being on the program.
Yeah, good morning.
My pleasure. Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Jeff.
Did you stand up and cheer when you saw the speech yesterday? I've been waiting for that from a commander-in-chief for a long time, and I thought Benjamin Netanyahu just did fantastic.
Well, what I thought he did, for people who've been following this for a long time, I don't think he said much that was sort of from a rhetoric point of view that was new. You and I have talked about, and everyone who's been following this understands the idea that it's that it's barbarians on one side and civilization on the other. Understands that there's a moral context here. Understands that it's the same enemies as the U.S. But you almost never hear it articulated in the way that he did, in the forum that he did. And by the way, for people who don't necessarily follow it so closely, maybe said, this is a big speech. I'll sit down and I'll watch this, even though, maybe my representative didn't attend. I'll sit down and I'll watch this. And this may be the first time that they heard it put together in a coherent, comprehensive way. And of course, it's done in the context of one of these congressional speeches. He's got guests there. I thought his bringing a variety of IDF officers was fantastic. I thought having some of the families of the former hostage, of course, and the families of some of the hostages, and then I think the father of a soldier who was killed there, to sort of represent what they're still fighting for, was very smart. It wasn't just him standing there alone. Framing it in the context of a broader Middle East issue and the Iran question is necessary. When he was here in 2015, when he was here in 2015, the speech was all about Iran because that was in sort of the lead up to this nearly, well, it may still end up being catastrophic nuclear deal that the U.S. cut with them. So putting all those pieces together, it was really just I think an A+ speech all across the board in terms of content, in terms of the form that he put it in, and in terms of the delivery itself.
It provided moral clarity. It provided an exciting, motivational call to justice. And I don't want to paint past the IDF soldiers, because I thought that was one of the best moments where you had the chief executive leader of a state, or I guess he's the prime minister, but he has some chief executive, but the leader of a state proudly standing with their soldiers. And he described a few of them. One, a soldier that grabbed their rifle and ran 8 miles to engage in the fight that morning. Another soldier that had lost its leg, and then he takes the cane and he's showing it up in this and
he's
cheering
raising it up in the
I just loved to see what reminded me almost like of a George Washington. These are my troops. These are the boys and girls, the young men and women, the souls of Israel fighting for their country, and I am so proud of them. It was inspiring.
It was, and that was one of the few moments where even the Democrats got up and actively cheered. Not to make it too partisan here, but that was one of the moments that you saw everyone in the chamber get up and pay their respects to these guys.
I want to play a few clips and get your reaction. These were some of the most talked about. Here's Netanyahu talking about the protesters.
Well, I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
That received a lot of applause. Joshua, was it right for him to call out the protesters as useful idiots?
Well, of course. I mean, the backdrop against it couldn't have been better. I mean, he did that. He spent a little bit of time on the protests here in the U.S., and I thought that was important because that's gotten most of the direct attention that we see here in the U.S. on this thing. And that's when there's news about the war, but if you're watching the nightly news, you're more likely to see stuff about what's going on with the protests. And I thought his connecting them with Iran funding them was tremendously important. And I think the key element here is, as he was saying that, you sort of teased at the end of the pre-broadcast lead-in for the hour, almost as he was saying that, they were hauling down American flags and beating up Capitol Police or Park Police at I guess it was Capitol Police at Union Station, and burning the American flag, and engaging in a full-out riot, really just blocks for people who don't know the layout of DC very well. Union Station is just a few blocks north of the Capitol itself. I mean, it's just a walk. It's just a walk down the hill that the Capitol is on. It's right there. I mean, and they were rioting right there in the streets of the U.S. Capitol. Iran was funding this kind of chaos. I thought his drawing that connection was tremendously important. They are our enemy. They're seeking to not just influence U.S. policy, but tear apart the U.S. Through that sort of, and so for him to make that connection with the fact that this is all being bankrolled by Iran was very important.
Well, and they want to assassinate Donald Trump as well. This was the speech of the moment of the speech that I think got the biggest, loudest applause, especially from Republicans.
So these protesters burn American flags even on the 4th of July. And I wish to salute the fraternity brothers at the University of North Carolina who protected the American flag against these anti-Israel protesters.
Lots of standing on some of these frat boys.
I think they started chanting USA.
That's right.
Too, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Start chanting USA. These are the same boys that were honored at the RNC. I mean, you can't imagine what their life is going through. But to connect it to those boys, to connect not just the protests of Israel and the anti-Semitism there, but to then bridge the gap to anti-Americanism. And go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, so I don't want to overdraw this, but it's an analogy that just occurred to me as you were talking. I don't know if you've ever, and maybe it's because I have Olympics on the brain, because I despite the corruption that is the flying corruption that is the IOC, I love the Olympics. So I love watching all the different sports and watching the U.S. clean up and everything. But so if you remember in 1980, the Miracle on Ice. And people were just so desperate for something to cheer for. They were so desperate for something to, for something to be proud of for the U.S. after nearly 4 years of Jimmy Carter, and the team gave it. There's a scene in the movie Miracle. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a great movie, by the way, and where the guys are walking out onto the ice for the game against the Russians. And there are all these telegrams in the days when people used to send telegrams, pinned up on the bulletin board, this is what this has meant. These frat boys, after 3.5 years of Jimmy Carter on steroids, we gave people something to cheer about, and so we're sort of grabbing onto that. As people who just of their own accord, not in any organized way, not getting messages that this is what they needed, just because it was the right thing to do, stood up for the flag and gave people something to cheer about. I think it was just it's almost that same sort of catharsis, where we get to cheer somebody who did something good on behalf of the country.
That's right. Here's Netanyahu taking on and mentioning the college issues.
It's not only the campus protesters who get it wrong. It's also the people who run those campuses. 80 years after the Holocaust, the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and I'm ashamed to say my alma mater, MIT, couldn't bring themselves to condemn the calls for the genocide of Jews. You remember what they said? They said, it depends on the context. Well, let me give these befuddled academics a little context. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest hatred. For centuries, the massacre of Jews was always preceded by wild accusations. We were accused of everything from poisoning wells, to spreading plagues, to using the blood of slaughtered children to bake Passover matzahs. These preposterous anti-Semitic lies led to persecution, mass murder, and ultimately to history's worst genocide, the Holocaust. Now, just as malicious lies were leveled for centuries at the Jewish people, malicious lies are now being leveled at the Jewish state.
It's referencing there the presidents of those four major colleges that were interviewed by Elise Stefanik up on Capitol Hill, and I think nearly all of them lost their jobs as a result of their responses here. I think you look at the lunacy of all the protests that were taking place. That was at least a good moment in the sense that the leadership of these schools were called to account for allowing this anti-Semitism to brew on these college campuses. And then as a result, many of them were terminated.
Yeah, I mean, I think people can say, well, it was really her plagiarism, but it wasn't, because that never would have come to light if people hadn't been a little, for President Gay of Harvard, that would never have come to light if people hadn't suddenly started paying attention. Who is this person who is up there representing Harvard? I'm a little bit ashamed. Well, I didn't choose him, but I guess I'm a little bit ashamed that my own alma mater, UVA, University of Virginia, founded by Jefferson, right, didn't do much better. On October 8th, there was all the various DEI student groups lined up behind a letter from the Students for SJP, the Students for Justice in Palestine, which it turns out is also getting foreign funding. It turns out is also one of these sort of money laundering operations, if you will, for overseas influence operation. Yeah. No, I mean, this is they're not, this is not an organic. I mean, yes, there are people who sympathize, but it's not an organic organization. They put out this letter actively celebrating the attacks, and the best that the university president could do was, well, we don't want any violence, but we defend free speech. Now, imagine on December 8th, 1941, if some students had put out a letter saying, well, the Japanese are just fighting to free Asia from colonial domination, and we happen to be on the side, if they sort of bought the Japanese propaganda line and put out a letter like that. I mean, they wouldn't have been students there very much longer. This is the moral. He's right. You're right in that this was a moment of clarification.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure all that much has really changed.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because Elise Stefanik brought it up at the RNC convention too, about how these presidents, and then she stops herself and says former presidents. So it's important to remember it was Republican leadership in the House calling to account these presidents at elite universities that resulted in their resignations. But these institutions, and believe me, as somebody who spent nearly a decade in higher education, they are so institutional. They are so ingrained. The leftism, the Marxism in higher education is down to the root at this point that I'm not sure you're going to see a lot change. What do you think, Joshua?
No, I think it's going to be very difficult to do anything other than metaphorically, I want to stress, burn these things to the ground and find some way of creating new institutions. I'm not sure that aside from the back catalog, the libraries, the sort of the physical infrastructure, they're not truly representative of what a university is supposed to be, and certainly not truly representative of what we want our society, what we want to be teaching our kids to become as citizens, and that sort of thing. I mean, you're referencing, of course, your time at CCU, which is the exact opposite, right? I mean, that's teaching them everything we want them to become as citizens. And so I just am not sure that they're sort of coasting on hundreds of, in the case of Harvard, and I guess some of these schools, hundreds of years of brand equity, but it's just the product isn't there to support it anymore.
Talking with Joshua Sharf, he's an analyst with the Independence Institute. I'm going to ask him when we come back about Nancy Pelosi's response. And I remember sitting there watching the speech going, oh, the Democrats aren't going to like this. And then, Joshua, when we come back to, I also want to ask you, we hosted a top Democrat strategist earlier in the week, and they said they don't think that the Democrats can put a Jew on the ticket in the Democrat Party right now. And I was just sitting there listening going, and he didn't agree with it, but he just said that's one of the political realities. I was like, this sounds like David Duke is running or something. It just didn't make any sense to me that that a major U.S. party would have gotten to a point with anti-Semitism within their own ranks that they feel like they can't even have a Jew on the ticket. Was shocking to me. I'm going to ask you all about that in a second. I want to talk to you all about Roll 'em Out shelves and my friends Joyce and Brent Tolliver. Look, we had Roll 'em Out shelves. These are these Baltic birch shelves that you have installed in your kitchen or your laundry room or your bathroom, and they allow you to pull out your shelf. It's that simple. But when you do that, it opens up your kitchen in ways we could have never imagined. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking this is a luxury item that maybe someday I'll add. This will change your life and change your ability to access so many new things in your kitchen. You won't regret it. It's one of the best decisions we have made. Listen to some of these 5-star reviews. Life-changing. So much wasted space in our kitchen cabinets. My space has literally tripled, and I'm so happy. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Make sure to tell them Jeff sent you, rollemoutshelves.com. We'll continue with Joshua Sharf analyzing the historic speech given by Benjamin Netanyahu to a joint session of Congress yesterday. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told US lawmakers that Americans protesting against the war in Gaza should be ashamed of themselves, going as far as labeling them as Iran's useful idiots. The incendiary remarks came during an address to a joint session of Congress, which a number of Democrats boycotted. Outside Congress, thousands protested the visit, with police deploying pepper spray to control crowds that burned a US flag. As Americans continue battling high inflation, many agree that the price for a new car is too expensive. In New York, Haley Bianco has the story.
The average price for a new vehicle was $46,992 in the first quarter of this year. That's according to car experts at Edmunds. They've also rounded up the 5 cheapest options when it comes to buying a brand new car. They are the 2024 Versa, starting at $17,820. The 2024 Mirage, starting at $17,840. The 2024 Forte, starting at $21,145. The Venue, starting at $21,295, and the 2025 Track, starting at $21,495.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking with our good friend Joshua Sharf, an analyst at the Independence Institute, on the speech given yesterday to a joint session of Congress by Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, Joshua, Nancy Pelosi had something a little different to say. She said Benjamin Netanyahu's presentation in the House chamber today was by far the worst presentation of any foreign dignitary invited and honored with the privilege of addressing the Congress of the United States. I was like kind of stunned that it was the worst presentation by far. Really? I don't, Josh, what? How did she even get there?
Well, that's when I guess Nancy, you weren't in the room. How did you know? You had to be there. You had to feel the energy. No, she wasn't in the room. She was one of the ones boycotting it. And it's what do you say to something that's just so obviously partisan hackery?
Yes.
I mean, half the Democrats didn't show up. I don't know. I couldn't find an official statement, but does anyone know who if anyone among the Colorado delegation didn't show up? I know that DeGette didn't show up to the 2015 speech, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she had something extraordinarily important on her calendar today, like maybe a cookie baking class or something that she had to go to. But I don't know. I don't know if she made it there yesterday. But what do you say to that? I mean, she obviously is. The point isn't to be believed. The point is to get the headline in Newsweek to begin the pushback immediately. And so it's it's the kabuki theater that goes on right now.
Joshua, I gotta ask. I mean, just honestly, at what point do Jews just have had enough of the Democrat Party and the anti-Semitism and this getting in bed with radical Islamists and just say, we're done? If a member of the Republican Party, let's say Franklin Graham, addressed a joint session of Congress and a member of the Republican Party or members of the Republican Party said that it was the worst speech ever given to a joint session, and then we're teaming up with people that we're actively working against, or people that, don't want evangelical Christians, for instance, to have a voice in the public square, I would be seriously questioning why anybody would be supporting that party. Why are Democrats still supporting, or why are Jews still supporting Democrats right now?
Well, you started to see some significant erosion of that under with Biden. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Harris, except for the fact that I think there's a general understanding that she's even worse on Israel than he is. Listen, people's political affiliations are very tough to shake. As long as there is some hope that you can push back against this, or historically what happens, you sort of keep your head down and the thing blows over and it goes away. This has a different, I think people, for a significant number of American Jews, they may be displeased, but they sort of figure that everything's transient, and in the end, the core political beliefs, which, I mean, let's face it, as they say, they earn like the old line about Jews earn like Episcopalians and vote like Puerto Ricans. That there's those sort of core political beliefs are not gonna be changed, and so I think you, excuse me, you sort of it's difficult. It's emotionally difficult if you come from generations of that to change and pull the lever for the other party. That said, you had mentioned this question about having maybe Josh Shapiro or Pritzker on the ticket, and I don't think Pritzker is going to happen because I think he's just too easily mockable. The more serious potential is Pritzker or even Polis, but I don't think but again, that's there's a political calculus there that is extremely ugly.
I think that Joshua Sharf, I think there's a concerted effort by Islamists and Marxists together to try to get one of the major U.S. parties, one of the two major U.S. parties, to break with Israel. I think that's why they seem to be more focused on the Democrats than Republicans, right? So this is the question I'm trying to answer is, I think there were protests at the RNC. I didn't see much of the protests at the RNC, but from what I'm gathering from news reports is that there's a much more organized effort by Islamists and Marxists to protest outside the DNC, which is kind of odd to me because like what you see with Biden and Harris is some waffling on Israel, right? Whereas with Republicans, and you saw it very clear yesterday, there doesn't seem to be much daylight at all between Republicans and Israel. So who would you protest? If you're an Islamist, if you're pro-Hamas and pro-Iran, who would you protest? Well, seems like you'd protest the ones that are really close and supporting the Jews. But I actually think what's happening is that the Islamists and Marxists think that they have an opportunity. They can peel off one of the two major parties in the United States against Israel. They're much closer with the Democrats, and so they're going to really lean into it and put the pressure there because they see the waffling, and if they can do that, they will turn the Democrat Party, one of the major parties in the United States, against Israel. That's a victory for them. That's how I see it. What do you think?
Oh, no, 100%. I mean, you put the pressure, you put political pressure not against somebody's strength. Well, you can put it against their strength if you think that you can beat them. But in this case, you put it against the party that seems to be wavering because, yeah, you think you can capture that. If that's not a core, if that's sort of an ancillary position for the party, it's not a core position for the party. Because and generally foreign policy is that way. You sort of figure that it's not. It's less sort of an immediate thing than sort of what you do with the society as a whole. Then you can push that absolutely, and I think that's exactly right. You go where you think they are weaker, and overall, institutionally, the anti-Semitism from the left right now is far more dangerous than anything that's coming out of than anything that's on the right. In terms of organization, in terms of institutional control, in terms of the sort of ongoing incubation of it in universities and colleges, in terms of the willingness of the press at this point to act, and the weakness of the party leadership and the government leadership, and the willingness of the press to repeat, as Netanyahu pointed out in the speech, although he didn't quite blame the press, but to repeat the lies that get told about Israel very quickly, and then eventually maybe you do an investigation and kind of walk some of it back. I think they absolutely. Also, don't underestimate the fact that right now the Democrats have responsibility for governance. So, or in terms of the executive branch, they have responsibility for governance. So that's the logical place to protest is the people who are actually implementing the policy you don't like. And so that also makes some sense as well. But no, I agree. I think that's absolutely the case. I think this business where you have, I think it was John King on CNN, who's not, I mean, he's not a great reporter. He's not a crazy guy, saying that, it may be difficult to put Shapiro's a first-term governor and he's Jewish, so there may be some concerns. I think is pretty close to the quote. Well, to say that the argument for Shapiro is that he basically he's popular in Pennsylvania, so sort of locks down Pennsylvania for them, which is a key state they have to have. But what profiteth a campaign to gain Pennsylvania and lose Michigan? I suppose they have to have all three of those states, the Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, at this point, in order to win. And so, they can lock one of them down, but it's unclear how you walk that tightrope. If you're Harris, you've got a real coalition problem, and it is, as you say, shameful and dangerous, and that part of that coalition problem is that you have to appease your party's anti-Semites.
I mean, it's amazing. I wanted to look on the other side, the Nick Fuenteses, the lunatics on the far right that seem to be trying to foment anti-Semitism. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, listen. I mean, sort of on the merits. If you compare one to the other, there's nothing to choose from. I mean, it's like the old the Simpsons cartoon with the two aliens who are running against each other. There's one and there's the other, and they're both equally horrible. My concern right now is that sort of institutionally, in terms of who has control or near control over levers of power, and who's in a position to sort of capture, as you say, one of the two major political parties is definitely more of a concern on the left. Nick Fuentes has no business being anywhere near anything. I mean, Candace Owens, who she's just sort of gone full conspiracy theory on stuff, on various things, and that's an interesting point, sort of from a more.
What do you think happened there?
Well, she's always, she's always kind of been inchoate, that is to say, sort of a work in progress. And I guess, it's just, I can't psychoanalyze what happened to her, but I want to put a little bit of it in context. She's, it's not just Jewish stuff or Israel stuff where she's been promoting conspiracy theories. There's other stuff as well. And I think one of the key ways to understand anti-Semitism is as a conspiracy theory. What are people doing to us? Who are these people that are doing this terrible thing to us? Is very much a way to understand the examples that Netanyahu brought in terms of historical accusations against Jews prior to pogroms or attacks or whatnot, expulsions, whatnot. That there's this sense that somebody has to be behind all the bad things that are happening to us, and it's them. So if you sort of understand anti-Semitism as a conspiracy theory, then you understand why it's not amenable to reason. But there's something much more, and why people might follow that. Of course, the people running the show, the people pumping this in, have a very clear plan. The Iranians, the Qataris, the Islamists, the leftists have a very clear plan about what they wanted. They're not fooled by any of this, but they're certainly not above using it.
Joshua Sharp, analyst with Independence Institute, joining Jeff and Bill live. I want to dovetail off of that a little bit. I like the idea of approaching it as a conspiracy theory. Now, I know that you sit on the conservative side of the aisle, but let's look across the aisle for a second and look at the Democrats. How would you advise them to deal with this rising anti-Semitism inside their own party? Part of it being, people like Ilhan Omar and a rising community of Muslims in certain states around the nation. Some of those Muslims, not all, but some, hold those very anti-Semitic views that are echoed by Hamas. What advice would you give to the Democrats on how to approach this? Because obviously they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, I think there's I think in the case of Pelosi, I wouldn't call her anti-Semitic. I think she's just politically, she's doesn't necessarily understand what's going on in terms of the overall political dynamic, the danger that this is. She sort of sees it as another group that, part of her coalition that needs to be appeased. I think in the case of a Diana DeGette, who I along with some others met with back in December, it was clear to me walking out of that meeting that she cares about two things. She cares about abortion and climate change. And that's it. And anything that endangers her coalition to deal with that is just a distraction. And what she wants to do is keep the lid on that. And what it requires some level of political courage. It requires good faith to understand what it is you're actually dealing with. And it requires a willingness to see that this isn't just sort of another thing that's coming along and will go away. And if you want to confront it, then you need to confront it. You need to say that you won't tolerate it and that you won't have it in the part, and where where you have the ability to pull levers and expunge it from your party, you need to do that. We saw that in some of the primaries, fortunately here in Colorado, some of the primaries where a couple of I think Tim Hernandez lost, Elizabeth Epps lost, and that was a good night for, even though the progressives took their place, it was a good night for getting rid of overt anti-Semitism here locally. Right. You have to be willing to do that. One thing that I'll point out, I guess, is that music I hear playing in, or are we getting?
We got about 30 seconds. Go ahead.
The Netanyahu speech, I'll wrap up with this, was a tremendous speech. Unfortunately for the country and the Democratic Party, the one guy who really needed to be persuaded is unpersuadable because he was too busy in Kalama finalizing the coup. And that's Barack Obama. He's still the guy who's basically running the party. And he's the one guy who is both unpersuaded and not interested. He's on the other side. And that's a very dangerous situation to have. And yet that's where we are.
Joshua Sharf, analyst with the Independence Institute. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was wow. It really flew by. Thank you very much.
Well, and I did look it up. There wasn't a single member of the Colorado delegation that skipped the speech yesterday. So they were all present, which is good to see from their side. Again, Joshua Sharf, thanks so much for being on the program. Want to talk to you all about my friends over at QC Kinetics. Life in Colorado is awesome this time of year, but not so much if you got joint pain in your knees or shoulders. The good news is that QC Kinetics is here with the most advanced treatments regarding regenerative medicine. What does that mean? Well, they harness the healing power from your own body to restore and repair your damaged joint tissue. So many of our listeners have done this, and they are grateful. Guys in the office are getting it done. Joel over in the sales department said he was able to walk around for 5 miles up in the mountains the other day, and his back doesn't even hurt. He's feeling better than he has in years. QC Kinetics can get you moving again, too, with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. This really is the future of medicine, and the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can get you started with a free consultation. They have clinics in Aurora, Superior, Highlands Ranch, and Colorado Springs. If your shoulder or back is always hurting, if it hurts to walk or lift something, check them out and get lasting relief. Do it now so you can enjoy the rest of the Colorado summertime like you deserve. QC Kinetics, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986 or painfreecolorado.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Great. Don't think I'm on. Great conversation with Joshua Sharf from the Independence Institute on Benjamin Netanyahu's speech. We're going to have that and more protests coming up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in Mile High City on this Thursday, July 25th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole another hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee, brew in Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Billy, I'm looking at X, and Elon Musk just retweeted this. 1992. So tomorrow is the Olympics opening ceremony.
Yep.
And in 1992, on this day, the dude lit it by firing an arrow.
Oh, yeah, and went over the top. Yeah.
And went over the top and landed like perfectly in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you remember, and what was it? The one at Atlanta game? Was it Atlanta games here? Muhammad Ali did the torch lighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here going, could you imagine the pressure?
Oh, yeah.
And this dude delivered.
Yeah.
The whole world. And so he's standing there. Somebody lights his arrow.
Yep.
And it's on fire. And he stands there. He takes, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Pauses. Perfect pause.
Yeah.
Not too long, not too short. And then fires it over people.
Yeah. Over the people. Yeah.
Over the people. And it hits the cauldron perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
And lights the Olympic torch.
That was wonderful.
That guy either must have practiced. He nailed it.
Yeah, and the difficulty
with the whole world watching.
Yeah, and the difficulty is that is not a traditional arrow, so the flight path would be different. So he would have had to practice that over and over again because it's going to be front weighted. It'll be heavier on the front because it has to have something there for the fire. So he's got to adjust his angle as he's shooting it, because it's basically a parabola that he's got to look at as far as getting it there.
Yes.
So, yeah, it is impressive. Yeah, that is a skill and a half. It was really cool.
Dude stepped up. I can't stop watching it. I'm just Elon Musk just retweeted it, and he's just sitting there, and it just hits perfectly.
Yeah.
Wow.
There is something to say about the just pure ceremony of the opening of the Olympics.
I love it.
Yeah, closing of it is not as much fun.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. Oh, here. Okay. Small trivia
Except
question.
for the Olympics.
Yes.
The ice skating guys.
Now here's a little bit of world trivia. You might have to go through the alphabet, or maybe not. What is the last country to enter in the Parade of Nations at the Olympics?
Do they do it alphabetically, huh?
I don't know. You tell me. That's the trivia question.
I don't know. Then it would be like Zimbabwe or something.
Again,
I have no idea how they do it.
You think it would be alphabetically, but it's not. The host nation enters last.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, because obviously it's just like, okay, we've all been to that elementary school, talent show, where after your kid's done, you get up and leave. And so that would be the problem, is if it was like China after the C's, the entire stadium's empty. So that's the problem. That's why you can't do it alphabetically, because as soon as your nation is there, nobody pays attention and goes home. Yeah, that's why the host nation comes last, because everybody has to be stuck in the seats. And it's strategic.
Did you see the news that Salt Lake City is getting the Olympics in 2034?
Yes, and still not Denver. Yeah, still not. I'm not sure.
Dude, it'll be a millennia before we get that back.
We had them in the day, but it's not necessarily something I would say we need to go all in on. Just last week, I saw a video documentary on what happened to the Beijing Summer Olympics venues, and it is awful. Basically, Beijing, China did the thing where you put your fingers in your ears and close your eyes and go, la, 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 I don't see it anymore, la, 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 la. They've just left everything to rot, and it is awful. Some of the places are being overrun by vegetation and stuff. Some, it just looks dystopian because there's too much concrete and everything else to let greenery to come back in significantly. The beautiful swimming pool area and things. Yeah, and the places where they have the little wrap areas. That's
Where'd
horrible.
you watch that?
I don't know. One of my weird things that I run across during the day. It was one of the things like, see what Beijing things look like. I'm like, I will click that. So yeah, that was 15 minutes of wow, that's weird.
Well,
yeah.
Opening ceremonies are tomorrow, and I would love to hear just memorable moments, especially when you were a kid. I will never forget.
Yeah. What?
The I forget her name, but obviously the moment, but where she hurts her ankle.
Oh, yes.
And she gets carried off.
Yeah. Carrie Strug? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say Kippy Strug, because that was a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yes. Carrie Strug.
Because I was like 12 or 13 when that happened. And you're just like, that girl.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. She had already hurt herself before. She gets back up. She has to at least land it to get the points necessary.
Yeah,
and she
on the bum ankle.
Delivers.
Yeah.
But she can't even walk afterwards.
Yeah.
And then her coach picks her. Dude, that's like burned and seared into my memory in such a good way. I was so proud of our country. I was so proud of her.
I've got a couple. One is, I was young enough to, as a kid, experience the Miracle on Ice. And that was transformative because you're like, wow, it was so cool. It really was that idea because it was the Soviet Union. It was Cold War. So
and they got their butt kicked earlier.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I was able to experience that one. The other one for me that always sticks with me, well, one is the idea of Team USA in basketball. Because we lose and we're like,
the dream team.
Yeah, and now we're like, okay, that's it. You guys sit down and we're going to do this. I thought that was a lot of fun. The one that really sticks with me.
Hold on. Before you leave on Dream Team.
Yeah.
I was, that was around the same age.
Yeah.
I was like late elementary, early middle school.
Yeah.
And Kraft cheese allowed you to send in little UPS things for a Dream Team hat. I collected them all summer. Got my Dream Team hat, and I was so proud of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job. I won't tell you then that I was gifted one of those in a promotion. It was one of the things walking around. Yeah, they had the promotion. The other one for me that sticks with me as a kid is, oh God, and I remember the moments, but I can't remember the exact marketing campaign. I want to say it's Dan versus Dan was the marketing campaign. And I want to say, and I'm not sure if I have the two names right. I know one was Dan, and I'm not sure if the other one was, but I think it was Dan versus Dan. And the idea was they were these amazing decathletes, and they were competing. They were the favorites for the gold medal. And there was this huge advertising campaign about Dan versus Dan, Dan versus Dan. And then one Dan doesn't qualify for finals. Doesn't make it through the breakout round, and then you're like, oh. And so I still to this day imagine all of those marketing professionals that put all of that effort and money into this and went, well, all those ads we have scheduled for the next 2 weeks are now done. We can't run a single one of them, guys. What do we do now? Whose idea was this? Johnson, come over here. Yeah, that's basically it. I still remember that one because it was such a massive failure, and we've never seen anything like it because of what happened. Yeah, I find joy in that.
Give us a call. Let us know what some of your favorite Olympic memories were. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. This one, we went totally down a rabbit hole because I just happened to watch this on X, and it is cool. Who could probably give us some good sports memories? Blake Olson. Hey. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, what a great subject. That is such a great subject. I think Dan and Dan was 92 or 88. Right. I'm not sure. But for me, guys, 1976, it was the bicentennial of America, and it was in Montreal, and you had Leon Spinks, Sugar Ray Leonard, Michael Spinks in boxing, and then you had freaking Bruce Jenner, man.
Yeah.
He was our hero, man. The greatest all-round athlete in the world. Now he's whatever he is.
Yeah. And the weird thing is I think it's because of the success of Bruce Jenner, because again, he's the Wheaties box guy.
Yeah. He is Wheaties.
Yeah, he is the Wheaties. He's the reason they do that. And I think that's why they leaned into the Dan and Dan later on in the 80s,
doubt.
90s.
No, that is exactly why they were trying to recreate it.
Yeah. And then
there's no doubt.
Yeah. And then someone didn't get the memo.
No, exactly. And I was 10 years old at the time.
Oh, wow.
And everything, you remember this, Billy.
Yes.
I mean, everything was red, white, and blue. It was awesome that summer. Yeah, the popsicles and Olympic popsicles and everything was red, white, and blue. Everyone's celebrating, everyone around their TV sets. And the boxing was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
And Jenner was awesome. I mean, there's so many other sports that will come up that I'm not thinking about right now. But to me, the 76 Olympics was superior. It was outstanding.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yep. All right. 69. Hey, great subject. I want to hear some more stories about that. 69 and sunny in Denver. We're expecting a high of 95 today. Canadian smoke may clear tomorrow. Speaking of Montreal, Canada, the 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted.
Former President Trump speaking for the first time since President Biden ended his campaign. DJT at a rally in North Carolina, and he's right. She is dangerous. Don't ever forget her and what she did in 2020.
This is a movement. I'm telling you, they're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
In other words, we don't want them to stop. We want chaos.
In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter?
Not to Harris. President Biden addressed the nation on TV for the first time since dropping out of the race. He talked about a lot and tried to sound presidential.
I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come.
Former President Obama getting ready to endorse Harris soon. She had an important event with her sorority sisters yesterday, so she missed Bibi and Netanyahu's outstanding speech before Congress discussing Hamas supporters, aka protesters.
I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
Joshua Sharf, analyst from the Independence Institute here in town, on with the fellas last hour, discussing the speech and what happened at DC's Union Station, as Bibi called them Iran's useful idiots.
The key element here is, as he was saying that, they were hauling down American flags and beating up Capitol Police or Park Police at I guess it was Capitol Police at Union Station, and burning the American flag, engaging in a full-out riot.
So last night, Speaker Mike Johnson and a group of Republicans went to Union Station and raised an American flag and said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Woo! Yeah! FBI Director Christopher Wray was in front of Congress as lawmakers try to go deep on the assassination attempt of Trump. Nobody knows much of anything other than it looked like there was a stand down and almost everyone failed. The House is setting up a bipartisan task force to investigate. House Speaker Johnson and Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said that the task force will move quickly to find the facts, ensure accountability, and make certain such failures never happen again.
Why did they initially lie to us in the days after the attack in Pennsylvania?
Yep, that's Jim Jordan. Nikola Jokic's brother, he's been charged with assault after he hit a fan at Ball Arena during that Nuggets-Lakers playoff game in April. Video of the incident appears to show Strahinja Jokic punching a man in the stands. Investigators say the man suffered a concussion along with cuts and bruises around his eye. Jokic has an arraignment set for August 21st. The first vending machine to sell ammunition in Colorado is about to open in Buena Vista. Not Buena Vista, even though it's Buena Vista.
Blake, I'm thinking I need to get in on this.
Yes.
I need to be an investor.
Yeah, I was thinking the
brilliant,
same
man.
thing. Last week, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to show your ID, take a 3D face scan for verification, but the machine will be in front of the Legree's food stores. You probably have seen those. I don't know.
I don't know where that is. The Legree's food store. I was just in Buny over the weekend. My son and I were up hiking Mount Harvard in Columbia.
Nice. Oh my goodness. That had to have been beautiful.
It was very, very cool. We take our boys when they turn 12 on a kind of 3-day dad-son backpacking trip. And
oh man,
we talk,
that's awesome.
We talk God, we talk family, and we talk country. And then they get a beautiful little compass that Nicole and I buy from England that says God, country, family on it.
Really?
And they get to, we hope they carried that with them for the rest of their lives.
Oh,
but
that's a great idea.
We were up in Buny. I don't know that place.
Huh. Well, I think it's I would get in on it.
I
I'm
would
like
too.
You. I mean, I think it's a good investment.
Call the station, whoever owns those. You got two guys that are willing to hand you some cash here.
Exactly. Hey, the Broncos training camp kicked off. Wide receiver Cortland Sutton is on the field and practicing.
Coming into the game in the month of July. High fly ball, deep left field, way back. Take a good look. You won't see it for long. How about a grand slam for Brent Doyle?
Brent Doyle, his first grand slam. The Rockies steamroll the Red Sox 20-7. They've won 5 of 7 at San Francisco tomorrow night. 65 in Golden, 67 in Aurora, 69 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue.
Old white guys, good old white guys, young white guys.
Thursday, I just love playing that. I think I'm going to play that at least once a week. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, more smoky haze, temperatures mid to upper 90s, lows tonight mid to upper 60s. Will be in the lower 90s, a pretty good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms returning to the Front Range Friday into Friday evening. A good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms Saturday, low 90s, low 60s, isolated thunderstorms, low 90s Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can guarantee payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Billy, Blake, and I were reminiscing on some of the greater Olympic moments because tomorrow's opening ceremonies. I think they're already starting activities, but tomorrow's where the big opening ceremonies will begin. Let's go to the phones. Francis Gold. Good morning, Francis. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Hey, gang. Hey, I'm tired of the smoke, man. It's affecting my well-tuned body.
Yeah, I was coughing a lot this morning.
Yeah, I don't have a well-tuned body, and it still affects me. Just letting you know. Even for us people that are out of shape, yeah.
Well, hey, you guys, I had a chance because on account of just luck with some old roommates to go to the last Salt Lake City Winter Olympics.
Wow.
And as it turns out, one of these people, her husband was a Secret Service person in charge of the Park City venue. And so we had to get tickets for everything, but we also kind of got to go to the areas that, the great unwashed weren't allowed. And it was fun as hell. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's the countries all get like these, they rent houses or it's hard to describe in the venues. And so they all have kind of like a home base to party and celebrate from. And it is fun as heck. You just walk around these places and people are in really amazingly good moods and everybody's happy. It's not it was atmosphere above all. And I'll tell you what, we got to see the ski jump. It was like a preliminary from on top, like where the other newspapers and news shows and things had people at the venue. And I don't know how you learn to become a ski jumper, because you got to just sell your body to the fates. I mean,
do you ever see the movie Eddie the Eagle?
You know what? I never thought I wanted to so bad. I just never did. I should have. Because after seeing that,
that's a story of a guy who just wants to be an Olympian. That's it. He's like, I just want to be an Olympian. He's kind of goofy and a little nerdy. And he comes to realize that the only place where he could probably do it is because England didn't have anybody that was ski jumping. And so all he had to do was like land it in order to be on the Olympic team. And so to your point, Francis, he just chucks himself off these ramps in order to do it.
I mean, that would be how you get in the Olympics, is you just go to a country that doesn't have much in the way of skiing and commit your body to just needing some orthopedic some repairs later. But man, oh man, it was just really fun. And like I said, the atmosphere is the whole thing. Like in Salt Lake, they had kind of like an Olympic, the It was like a main base. Everybody was there. It was kind of like an Olympic village there. And I just, the thing I took away from it was that, people from all these different countries and everything, people can put things aside and just be cool, which it's kind of, why can't you do this all the time kind of thing? I don't know how to describe it. And it was something I didn't anticipate experiencing. I didn't think it would be that much kind of, hey, we're all in this together, camaraderie is in this cool atmosphere. I just didn't, that was something that threw me for a little bit of a loop, and maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe I was too jaded, but it was cool.
I love that perspective because I've never been to the Olympics. I have no idea what it's like, or the atmosphere, or the camaraderie, or the ability. Because look, throughout the year, you have, championships and U.S. championships. And so athletes are always getting together, but it seems like this is the rare time once every 2 years where the world is like focused on the idea of countries competing against each other.
Yep. It was great. I'll tell you, I don't know. If anybody has a chance to go.
Have you been to another one since, or was that it?
No, but you know what? I've decided I'm going to do it again at some point. If I can get some time and get a little bit, organized in my life, I definitely would like to go again.
Yeah, you've got Salt Lake City again in 2034. So, Francis, I appreciate the call from Golden.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That is cool to have that perspective. Billy, you ever been to anything Olympic oriented?
No. I mean, I've been to, there were some ski events and things like that here, but nothing Olympic oriented. And I think that'd be really cool. And I like what Francis is talking about, that it's the one time when everybody's coming together and kind of hanging out, and that you're just there to compete. And that I think is the wonderful message that is behind the Olympics that sometimes we miss. Yes, it's the competition between the countries, but it still is friendly. Yeah, it still is at the core of it. Well, except for China. Screw China. I don't want China on anything. Okay, I hope they lose all their possible contests.
And Jesse Owens against Hitler.
Yeah.
All these deep stories. We've got some great text messages coming in. Favorite was Munich 1972, obviously not because of the tragic violence, but Mark Spitz.
I had forgotten about Spitz. Yeah, and then Gabe just texted in, don't forget about the Jamaican bobsled teams. We're talking Winter Olympics. And it's really funny that Gabe brings that up because it had to be maybe 2 weeks ago, heading into the Olympics. I saw a meme online, and it was a shot from the movie, and it's where they're all sitting in the bathtub. And it's just a shot of them in the bathtub. And it said, only people of a certain age will understand the reference. And I'm like, that is me. I get that one. Yes. Cool Runnings. Yep. That was the movie.
I want to talk to you about my good friend, Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law. I've gotten to know Dan over the last decade or so working in politics here in Colorado. He's a force in the community. Just a really good name and a good person. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. There's those other kind of ambulance chasing attorneys. That's not Dan Kaplis. Dan's a son of a police officer, a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But he's more than that. He's a titan in the courtroom who gets it done. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, and Dan's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankapleslaw.com. Why don't you just put it in your phone right now, just so that you have it in case you need it. 303-770-5551, or visit dankapleslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. All right, we'll continue with your calls and texts. Let us know some of your favorite Olympic memories. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. Rescue operations continue across China and the Philippines after a powerful typhoon swept through the region. Laura Westbrook has the details from Hong Kong.
Chinese authorities have activated emergency responses in preparation for heavy rain and strong winds. They've also evacuated some 150,000 people off coastal areas in Fujian province. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, authorities are scouring waters off the southern coast, looking for 9 crew members of a sunken cargo ship. And in the Philippines, authorities there are in a race against time to contain a massive oil spill after a tanker capsized and sank off the coast of the capital, Manila.
President Biden has used a primetime address from the Oval Office to explain his decision to drop out of the 2024 election race. Speaking to the nation, Biden said he believed it was time to pass the torch to a new generation in an effort to unite the nation. Vice President Kamala Harris, who continues her campaign to take over the nomination for the Democrats, posted online that Biden had surpassed the legacy of most two-term presidents. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's opening night for the Olympics tomorrow night. So we're talking stories of some of the greater moments you remember growing up with the Olympics. Let's go to Carol Lakewood. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Carol.
Morning.
Well, good morning. Well, I was watching America's Got Talent yesterday, and they had 5 guys from Colorado with pogo sticks. And the funny thing is, and I actually used to do pogo sticks. So I'm like, Jim, we got to watch this. So they're all from Colorado. They basically are trying to get it into the Olympics. So, you know, all four judges are not even American. They're all from out of the country. But it's funny. They started their routine, and none of these judges ever saw a pogo stick before.
Really?
So they were jumping around. And they got through. They got 4 yeses. So they're going on to the live shows. But see, they're not going to be on again for 2 weeks because of the Olympics, because they're on the same channel. Yeah, so they're going to be on again, but they'll be going off. But see, my favorite part of the Olympics is the equestrian teams.
Now, what do you like about it? What are you watching? Yeah, what do you like about the equestrian?
I like the equestrian teams because they're all men and women competing together on horses. And basically, they do dressage, they do Olympic jumping, they do the stadium jumping, they do the cross country, and they're doing it at a real pretty place in Paris. It's a huge, and it's beautiful how they do it because it's all. If you get into the equestrian, they do the stadium jumping, they do dressage, and all those. Horse events go into the final stadium jumping, which is just stadium jumping horses. So they're really neat to watch because the men and women that are in that, basically, they're the only teams that have men and women in them.
I love that. And I also like the idea of the dual team where it is, you know, the rider and the horse, and that adds something different than any other Olympic competition because of the animal involved and the intelligence of the animal. There has to be a very special relationship between that rider and the horse in order to make sure those things go right, because the horses don't always want to do that stuff, and they've got to trust the rider. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, it's a team effort with the horse and the rider.
Yeah,
but then,
cool.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen has a daughter.
Yeah, she's competing, right?
She's competing. She got a silver medal in the last Olympics.
Wow.
For the stadium jumping.
Now, Carol, I want to go back to the pogo stick thing. You said you did the pogo stick. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good were you? Just honestly.
Well, I was like 5.
Wow.
Because I have a serious balance, even back in when I was a kid, because I was a equestrian. I used to ride horses, so I my best balance was on a horse. So, but
nice.
My brother, and I have 5 sisters and a brother, and my brother was the best on the pogo stick.
Really? Because I had one as well, and I always thought it was as a parent, great toy, because you're just handing it to the kid and saying, "Here, go jump in place for a while." That is brilliant as far as getting something.
You don't get high enough to really hurt yourself.
No, not at all. And we had the pogo stick in our neighborhood, and this will tell you how good we were. The world record in our neighborhood was 5. So we suck. We were awful. We were awful. I was lucky if I get to 3 or 4. Yeah.
Well, all 6 of us, they had to get pogo sticks for all 6 of us. That's why I was really into watching these 5 guys do it all, and they were doing like different type of jumps, and they were going over. They were very athletic. So if you get into America's Got Talent, watch it, because they're in the next the live rounds.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, Carol, for our listeners and for Jeff and anybody else that's not into the equestrian events, if we were browsing the schedule for the Olympic Games and, we were casual fans at best, what is the sport that we should watch that'll really give us an appreciation of the equestrians that you love? What do we watch?
Well, they're doing the dressage right now. That's a whole foundation for all the other sports in the equestrian. So that's it's like ballet which like it's they're doing like a ballet on horses.
It's like it's like figure skating or even the floor exercises in gymnastics, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
the
like
art.
the Lepizans
Oh,
in
okay.
Austria, and they're the top of the dressage world. Because if you get in with the Lepizaners, and they're the ones that were rescued by Patton for the white horses, the Disney, Walt Disney
forgot,
did
yeah.
the white Lepizans and they were trying to get them away from the Nazis because it was Lepizaners and Polish Arabians and Egyptian Arabians that were all taken by Hitler. If you read The Perfect Horse, it's about the Lepizaners and how Hitler was very interested in those horses.
Wow.
That's
Interesting.
Thank you.
Carol,
Yeah.
appreciate the call.
that.
Carol from Lakewood. Her phone line will be open 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. I'm always interested in kind of the funnier little sports,
Yeah.
that are going to be popping up. Breakdancing debuts in the 2024 Paris Olympics.
I can't believe that's actually a sport.
Come on, 80s boy. You
Here's
got to
this.
be happy about
Dude,
that.
I did breakdancing. It's not a sport. Not a sport at all. Not at all. There's so many other things I think should be a sport. For me, that is a demonstration. That is fun. But as a sport, I mean, no.
Surfing's back.
Yeah,
Surfing will
surfing's
be
good.
back this
Yeah,
year.
surfing should be there.
Skateboarding
Yeah,
is
skateboarding,
back.
absolutely.
Sport climbing returns.
I mean, again, if we're going to have breakdancing as an Olympic sport, then let's just have catch. Let's just have the catch department. And just two guys throwing it back and forth. That's all you have to do.
I see it more as a sport.
Oh, no.
Spin on your head. You and I could not spin on our heads. If we tried to do that right now.
No.
Speaking of HIPAA violations
Yeah,
and
exactly.
emergencies,
Yeah, that would be
Steve.
a neck issue. Yeah, Steve. That'd be a complete neck issue. That would be awful. I still and it was only because my cousin was much cooler than I was. I was a nerd. My cousin was really cool. And I remember going over to his house and him showing me, hey, my friends and I were doing this breakdancing thing. And he pulls out, of course, it's Herbie Hancock's rocket and shows me these things. And I'm like, what is this? So I'm this dumb white kid, and he shows me a couple of moves. And I'm like, wow. And then weirdly enough, about a month later, it pops up and I get a chance to someone going, did you hear the breakdancing? I'm like, I can do that. I'm like, no, you can't. I'm like, yes, I can. And I did. And then I was cool for that moment. And then it expired and I was no longer cool. But yeah.
Somebody 0359 likes watching pogo competitions too.
Wow.
What?
I bet that's really,
is that
really
a thing?
I can't imagine it is.
Tapped into something weird here.
But wow, would that be hard? Because of my experience with pogo stick, those things are difficult. Doing anything, even hopping up the stairs to me is like, you're a genius. This is amazing.
3-on-3 basketball is back. Kayaking. Kayak cross debuts at the Paris Games.
What is that?
Under the Canoe Shalom umbrella, the event of kayak cross is set for the Olympic debut in Paris. In kayak cross, 4 athletes race against each other from a ramp above the water. They traverse a course featuring up to 6 downstream gates and 2 upstream gates in a thrilling showdown. It's like when they in the Winter Olympics, when they go down and they're like elbowing each other and on the
stuff. Yeah, same
on
stuff.
the skis and stuff.
I like that idea. See, when you said kayak cross, I was envisioning that they'd have to go down the river and then stop and run 3 miles and fight a bear or something like that. I'd watch that.
Other changes to the 2024 Olympics. This is NBC Olympics reporting. Artistic swimming. For the first time in Olympic history, men are included in the artistic swimming competition.
They must have not seen
artistic swimming also now includes a team aerobatic. Oh my gosh, someone's routine, which will debut in Paris.
Yeah, a bunch of teams do a bunch of stuff that looks funny in the water. That's going to be weird. I
like upside down too.
Yeah. And again, a little bit older than you. I go back to Saturday Night Live every time I see, them doing the sequences dance. I go back to the Martin Short thing. And Jacqueline, I'm doing a shout out to you and the Martin Short discussion that we had off air earlier. The Martin Short, where they're I'd say swimming team. And I forgot what it's called, but it's the one where they do the sequence dancing in the water together. And then Martin Short's character, like, what is the challenge is? And Martin Short's like, I can't swim. and they go through this really easy, dumb routine. And that's what I think of every time I see that. It's just Martin Short going, but I don't swim. Yeah.
Other things like this, the weird little stuff like marathon race walking. Relay.
Race walking is stupid. I'm sorry if anybody did it. Okay, and I feel I can say race walking is stupid because I have a friend who does radio in, where is he? Utah now? I think he's in Utah. And he was a collegiate race walker. And the rules are stupid.
Yeah, you can't have both feet off the ground at the same time.
Yes.
That's what makes it a walk versus a run.
Yes, and people watch this, and I got
and
into
you get
this thing.
flagged too.
Yes,
if you're 2 feet up.
And I was talking to him about it, and all of a sudden this race walking athlete comes out, and he's a very mild mannered guy in radio, and all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, I did the race walking." He goes, and there was this one guy, and I forgot what he was like the race walking champion and stuff. And he goes, I knew that guy was taking both feet off the ground. I knew it. I just couldn't prove it, and he was mad about that. And I'm like, still, after all these years, you're still mad about that one. Okay,
Does the Olympics still have the ribbon people?
Oh yes, they do. Yeah, in the that's when you do it's the floor exercise. Yeah, for the gymnastics. Yeah, where you get the ribbons. Where I look like everybody's a third grader. Yes. I love
all
that.
right, it starts at 1:00 tomorrow because that's when it's opening ceremonies live in
Nice.
England. So it'll be midday tomorrow for us here in America to watch the opening ceremony.
That could be fun.
It'll be fun. When we come back, Billy boy,
Yeah.
big changes coming to Southwest.
Uh-oh, what?
And you're not going to like it. I'm not going to like it because we fly Southwest all the time. This is a bummer.
This is not good.
Yeah, no, they're all becoming the same.
So we have to check our own baggage and take it out to the plane or something?
You'll get some more information on that. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bad news for those of us Southwest fans. CNN reporting Southwest Airlines is shifting to assigned seats for the first time in its history. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That means I have to sit in the back of the plane.
They didn't put you in the back, Billy. They put the bad kids in the front so they could watch them.
There's all that alphabetical stuff. So now it's no more free-for-all. That's interesting.
I know.
Well, now,
for the
what do you
first
think about
time in
that?
its history, a change that will allow the low-fare carrier to charge a premium for some of its seats on its planes. The airline will also start offering overnight red-eye flights for the first time, which it said will improve the efficiency by increasing the use of its aircraft. Southwest said customers were clamoring for these changes when people switch to a competitor from Southwest. The company said the number one reason the unhappy customer cite is open seating. But the change will also help the company charge some passengers more for their tickets, and there's the real reason.
Yeah, that's the reason, is they just want more money.
Money.
Yeah. So now with you and your family, will you be paying the extra in order to choose seats, or will you just free-for-all it still?
See, this is what I've got to figure out, because I believe there's a new law that you cannot charge minors to sit with their parents.
Oh, that's even better.
That's the one thing where I'm like, all right, Pete Buttigieg, I think you got that right. He implemented a rule that airlines can't be like,
can I pay?
Oh, your 2-year-old? Yeah, we're going to force you to pay to sit next to the 2-year-old kid.
Can I pay extra to not sit next to other people's kids? Is that a premium I can get to?
That's called a private flight.
Yeah, exactly. That's unfortunate.
That's where I ultimately think a lot of this is going to go eventually.
Really?
I think because if you look at the private plane market, it is getting really, really saturated, actually.
Yeah, it is.
It used to be just a handful of folks that could do that, and now it's getting a lot more, and it'll just continue to go that way. And not for kind of the lower class, but I think for middle class, upper class, I think they're going to get access to private flights in a way that my parents never could have.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would happen is if it becomes competitive with current airline tickets. That's the only thing that would make that tilt. And the issue
somewhat competitive.
Yeah, and the issue would be things like, and here's the thing, is like your family and my family. It is different if we are a middle class family that's trying to fly with 2 parents and a kid versus the zoo that we have with 4. That is a whole different level of monetary commitment. And I think that's what they're going to have to figure in, is if it's a middle class family and you're asking them to take the private flight and it's 6 tickets, we might as well just ride regular.
There's a lot to complain about airline travel. You ever taken a Greyhound bus?
Yes. Yes, I have. Quite a number of times. I have done the bus. In fact, there's a comedian that says if you get on the Greyhound, the very first thing you want to do is pull out your cell phone and call America's Most Wanted and go, hi, I found everybody. They're all here on my bus. Come get them now.
So we did it in college, and we went to one of the most wealthy little elite colleges in California. I went to college in Montecito.
Yeah.
On an estate near Oprah's estate. Okay. So, but our school didn't allow you to have cars.
Really?
So you had to take the bus if you want to go anywhere. And so a number of us were like, let's go down to San Diego for the weekend. And we took a Greyhound bus. One time, you make that mistake one time, because to your point, you're like, these people just got out of jail.
Yeah.
Or they're not here legally.
I did the ride like you did the ride from college home, because it was issues of putting miles in the car, and the car had some things, and I wasn't sure it was going to make it all the way home. So I want to say 1 to 3 back and forth trips on the old Greyhound, and that was enough.
That's enough.
The thing for me is that do they all have to smell that funny? I mean, who's in charge of that part of it? Because every Greyhound bus smells the same, a combination of like old cheese and feet. It's just really bad.
So Southwest used to be the most profitable U.S. airline, but that's no longer the case. Thursday, it reported a 51% drop in adjusted profit to $370 million, despite reporting record revenue for the quarter. that was boosted by strong passenger traffic. But this has been a tough environment for U.S. airlines to make money. Significant increases in labor costs and higher fuel prices, thank you, Joe Biden, two of the largest expenses in the industry, have eaten into profits, and relatively low average fares have exacerbated the damage.
Yeah, I'd want to know. This is the only question I had is, let's do some math and let's total up the cost of the C-suites. And let's just see. Let's just see where we might
this
be
is
able
a
to
classic
trim some
thing
things.
for you and I, Billy,
Yes,
where
it
I'm
is.
like, it's the energy regulation costs that are driving up everything. And then, but I bet the CEO is doing pretty good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just ask Elon Musk. CEOs do great. He got a huge raise despite the fact that stock
Delaware
fell.
was like, no.
Yeah, but again, stock fell. He missed his deliverables. He recalled all of his cars. He got a raise.
It's a next.
Great.
It's that and being an elected politician, man.
It is. It absolutely is.
You can really mess things up and still go home very, very wealthy.
I chose poorly in my career. You and I should have both been politicians on that one. Now, Carol called off air after she joined us last time and wanted to remind us that Celine Dion is going to make an appearance at the opening ceremony.
This might be her last one.
Yes, it's
really that weird.
I forgot.
Is
what
it
it's
a vocal issue? Or is it
my wife knows because she's watched the whole Netflix thing and the other thing. She would know immediately, but I have no idea what it is. Yeah, it's vocal cords or something else, or I don't know what. I shouldn't say anything because it could be a HIPAA violation. I have no idea. And I'm not a doctor.
we have this one listener that anytime we discuss anything medical, likes to email and tell us, one, and remind us we're not doctors, and two, we're instigating apparently HIPAA violations. Because any discussion about anything medical is a HIPAA violation.
And then it's just a long stream of insults directed toward me. But, that's just a day that ends in Y.
Oh, it's fun day on the Jeff and Bill show. All right, coming up next, Luke Niforatos is going to join us because Philip Morris is coming to Aurora. We're talking about that and more on the Jeff and Bill show.
Are we encouraging sin and vice or jobs?
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes pretty crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. And we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So add another cup of coffee to your morning, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, Luke Niforatos, Executive Vice President, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, has got an opinion piece in the Sentinel. Aurora's embrace of Philip Morris comes with significant costs. Why does Denver get investment from technology companies, AI, healthcare, and beyond, and Aurora is given the vice industries? We'll cover this and more. Apparently, Philip Morris is bringing in a Zyn manufacturing plant. Those are nicotine pouches that are quite popular these days.
Excited about wine. No.
Zinfandel?
Yeah, and it's ZYN. Zinfandel. Zinfandel's the wine. Yeah.
Yes.
White and red.
ZYN is the nicotine patches, and Tucker Carlson's a big fan of them. In fact, he had the biggest one in the world made. A giant. So
I'm not sure about that.
Frat boys in the world are big fans of Zyn, but Luke Niforatos has got some questions for Aurora leadership. We'll talk to him right after the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Man, I almost didn't get this newscast done, guys, because you got me reminiscing about the 70s and 76.
You had started looking at videos, didn't you?
Oh, man, I've got some stuff for you at the end of this newscast. Oh, God, I love the show. Great job, guys. 75 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 95 today. Canadian smoke hopefully clears tomorrow. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
America and Israel must stand together.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris separately today. On Friday, the Prime Minister is scheduled to visit former President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Netanyahu's office says they scheduled the Friday meeting because of its importance to the state of Israel. Harris missed Wednesday's speech. After dropping out of the 2024 election, President Biden says it's time to pass the torch to a new generation as the left now tries to tell everyone how old former President Trump is. A month ago, it didn't matter.
I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come.
And former President Trump speaking for the first time since President Biden ended his campaign, DJT at a rally in North Carolina.
If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted.
And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, chiming in on Harris.
The phone is ringing off the hook, and now voicemail's full. And I get all these text messages from the White House saying the president's trying to get in touch with you, but I didn't even see them. President calls, the vice president calls. I'm still in the damn gym, and I mean, literally didn't even know that they called.
Wow, amazing. Your smartphone was ringing off the hook. How does he do it? And it's just incredible. He does a show with Marshawn Lynch. Okay, Newsom thinks Harris was incredible in Northern California.
You got your own Oakland girl, Alameda County prosecutor, is going to prosecute the case.
I wonder if she prosecuted my daddy.
Person of conviction running against a guy with 434 convictions. This is a moment. American history is being made in real time, Marshawn.
Yeah, can you feel it, guys? She's going to be a great president, isn't she? Wow.
Gavin, what would you call his last name? Nuisance.
Yeah,
Billy, Donald Trump better take that and
really
run with
good.
it. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
I need to text him today.
Yeah, you've earned your money. Just go home. You've earned all your money this week. That's it.
All right. Hey, former President Obama getting ready to endorse Harris soon. NORAD says fighter jets were scrambled yesterday to intercept 2 Russian bombers and 2 Chinese bombers off the Alaskan coast. In a statement, NORAD says the Russian and PRC aircraft remained in international airspace and did not enter American or Canadian sovereign airspace. Nikola Jokic's brother has been charged with assault after he hit a fan at Ball Arena during the Nuggets-Lakers playoff game in April. Video of the incident appears to show that he punched the man in the stands. Investigators say the man suffered a concussion along with cuts and bruises around his eye. Jokic has an arraignment set for August 21st. Broncos continue training camp, and the Rockies scored more than the Broncos in a 20-7 victory over the Red Sox on Wednesday. Now, to me, the greatest Olympics was 1976. Here's Leon Spinks, guys.
Referee Sabi has apparently stopped the contest. With 1:51 remaining in the fight, Leon Spinks waves to the crowd, which is giving him a standing ovation. What a fight!
Man, everyone was so patriotic during those games. It was awesome. Of course, Howard Cosell, and then Bruce Jenner and the great Keith Jackson.
And as they come to the finish line, it is Bruce Jenner way out in front. Oh, Jenner wins it big, 47-5-2. That's unofficial. Peel of Sweden is second on the line.
Guys, I wish you were both alive back then, but it was awesome. I know Billy was.
I love the commentators, Al Michaels, Bob Costas.
Yeah, man, they were great play-by-play guys. And Keith Jackson and the Olympics, and then you had Howard doing the boxing. Oh my goodness!
They're doing AI commentators this year.
Shut up!
Yeah.
What? No.
Yes, AI commentators. Now it's only if you are a subscriber to Peacock, you are going to get AI Al Michaels doing the video recaps of stuff that you're watching. If it's only on Peacock, you got to be subscribed
AI
there.
president. Right
Here's the reason that makes me mad about that. Okay, that's a good one. This is the one that makes me mad about that. Is they're taking somebody's job rather than AIing Al Michaels. And know this is all about money. If you need to give somebody else the chance to do that so that when Al Michaels isn't around, that person can step in and do the regular commentary.
Well,
that's how you
Here's a question I got for you guys. And Blake, you're a great play-by-play. You did sports for years. I appreciate the Al Michaels, the Bob Costas. They bring back kind of emotions, and you get to reminisce and all that. But I also want newer guys to pop up. I want my kids to reminisce on great sports callers today. And if you're doing this AI stuff, I don't want Al Michaels in perpetuity.
No,
exactly.
And it's gonna be awful. Yeah, that's the problem. That is the problem. It's they're not getting out of the way for the next generation of people who can be just as good, if not better, than them. I mean, imagine if we would have gone back in the day, and okay, this is a bad analogy, but imagine if we just would use like AI Walter Cronkite.
Yeah,
to read us the news.
Well, then we wouldn't get Kyle Clark.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. First, I'm like, that would be a bad thing. And I went, oh, wait, maybe not so much.
Human aspect.
Maybe this whole thing turned on me. Maybe I didn't think my clever plan all the way through.
No, I mean, it's just like this show. I mean, if it's fake, people aren't going to want to listen to it. I'm not going to want to listen to an AI call. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But dude, we got to figure out how to. That would be kind of funny.
No,
I wonder if you could get an AI call, and then Billy and you and Blake and we try to like mess with it enough to break it.
I think we should try at least one segment that way.
Oh, absolutely, we should.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can you break the AI call?
Right, exactly. I love it. All right, I know you have Luke coming up. It's 72 in Brighton, 73 in Lone Tree, where Luke used to live, 75 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. And you guys, you know what the number one song during the 76 Olympics was? Oh, God, I love this one. Oh, man, this is great. Elton John, baby. Come on! The 70s. Woo! Let's go!
The 710 5-day forecast, more smoky haze, temperatures mid to upper 90s, lows tonight mid to upper 60s. Will be in the lower 90s, a pretty good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms returning to the Front Range Friday into Friday evening. A good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms Saturday, low 90s, low 60s, isolated thunderstorms, low 90s Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can guarantee payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
President of Smart Approaches to Marijuana raises these questions. Why is it that Denver seems to invest a lot in technology companies, AI, healthcare, and the beyond, but Aurora seems to be given to Vice Industries? Luke, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good morning, and shout out to my buddy Blake. That nuisance line, I'm not going to forget it. That nuisance line has got to stick.
I know. And during the Manhattan trial, he called the judge the Judge Mersham trial.
Yeah.
So he's good at right up there with DJT. He's good at really coming up with the nicknames.
Yeah, and on the show,
he used to be just a few doors down from me, so you can imagine I got these lines on an almost daily basis.
Oh, they're great. One of the other ones of my favorite is MSNBC on the show is now Messy NBC. I think that's good.
So, Luke, isn't it good that Aurora's getting this industry? Is Zinn really that big of a problem? You raised some questions in an opinion piece in the Sentinel. So let's talk about it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in Aurora, spent basically all of my teen years and late childhood years in Aurora. I graduated from Overland High School, so I've spent a lot of time in the city. And what I've just noticed is this trend of essentially Denver wants to dump the things that they don't want towards Aurora, towards the border of Denver, Aurora, if not just relegating them to the city. And, there's a lot of really good, hardworking, middle-class people in Aurora, and there's a lot of young families in Aurora, which, I was raised in. And I just, I don't understand why, what really kind of set me off was I saw that they held a formal event with the CEO of Philip Morris, one of the world's largest tobacco companies. And you have Governor Polis and you have Mayor Mike Kaufman, and they're celebrating bringing big tobacco to Aurora. And I thought to myself, the history of Philip Morris is absolutely atrocious. Millions of Americans have died from their products. This is a company that is one of the best companies in the world at addicting younger demographics, vulnerable populations. So then I see that, okay, first of all, I'm stunned that they're celebrating Philip Morris. Second of all, I see the city of Aurora is giving Philip Morris $7 million in incentives, courtesy of Aurora's taxpayers. Oh, and by the way, Governor Polis is kicking in a few more million from the state. So taxpayers are, paving the streets in gold for Philip Morris to come to Colorado in force. And I'm stunned, given the history of this industry, given the history of Philip Morris particularly, targeting our kids, targeting vulnerable populations, and killing a lot of Americans. I'm just not thrilled about this, and I can't believe our state officials are here.
Yeah, it looks like they're putting the factory out near the airport. I imagine that's because they can fly them all around the world. This is a 600,000 square foot manufacturing facility, and they think the investment that's going to come from Philip Morris is about $600 million. They're anticipating about 500 new jobs. And the new facility is expected to have an economic impact of $550 million a year. So these little nicotine packets come from a company that was acquired by Philip Morris just 2 years ago. And they're little nicotine delivery kind of packets that you put in your cheek. And it's not quite tobacco. Like you think the old baseball players would put a big wad of Red Man chewing tobacco.
Right.
I don't even think I'm allowed to say the name of that company anymore. It's offensive. But I guess it's become so popular that Philip Morris cannot even keep up with the demand of them. Is that right?
That's correct. There's a national shortage, and that's what's really striking to me. So a little bit more of the analysis here. So the company said to New York Post that Philip Morris said that this factory in Aurora will enable them to meet national demand. So there's currently a shortage across the country. And so this is quite a fateful decision that the state and that the city of Aurora is making. They're allowing the building of this factory that will then allow this new nicotine product, these nicotine pouches called Zyn, to reach a critical mass across the country. Now, what's concerning about that? Well, there's a whole ton of people that are now addicted to these pouches because nicotine is an extremely addictive and harmful chemical. And so what the industry is saying is, these aren't as bad for you as cigarettes, and that may be. But there's so many people now addicted to these pouches that they're going from store to store to store. I was reading some of the anecdotes. There was somebody who was saying, I'm so addicted. They were saying, I'm going from gas station to store like a crackhead, they said, looking for these nicotine pouches because of how addicted they are. And to me, that's very frightening. So they interviewed one of the people from Philip Morris, and they said, people are addicted to this. And basically they said they're holding them hostage. They said, if they can't get access to these Zyn products, then I guess they're just going to have to go smoke our cigarettes to get the nicotine that they need. To me, that is very upsetting because we have been lied to by the tobacco industry before, saying, smoke our products, they're fine. They have a whole class suite of nicotine products. These nicotine pouches are designed to gateway people into their product suite. I have no doubt in my mind they want people to start smoking, that they want people to use their e-cigs and their other products. And I just don't think we should be fooled.
Talking with Luke Niforatos, he's the Executive Vice President of Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Now, Luke, help people understand how this is all tied to marijuana as well, because I believe a lot of marijuana companies are now being purchased and owned and operated by tobacco companies.
That's right. Yeah. So, big tobacco, long story short, we have finally, over 50 years and with hundreds of millions of Americans over the last several decades, hundreds of millions of people in this world and millions of Americans having died from this industry, their products are finally on the decline. We've done a fairly decent job of taxing them, educating people, getting the usage rates a little bit lower, though we still lose 500,000 Americans a year, where the tobacco industry is now looking for new ways to make more money. And so what they found is they can lobby and get marijuana legalized, which is exactly what they've done at 24 different states, including here in Colorado. So Philip Morris has invested billions of dollars into the marijuana industry. They want to see this get legalized because they have the whole apparatus ready. So then you look at what they're doing to innovate other nicotine and tobacco products. They're inventing these new ways of using their same chemical nicotine and to get more people hooked and make money that way as well. So from their perspective, they have an addiction for profit model. And so we kind of put the tamp down on cigarettes. Now they're moving on to marijuana. Now they're moving on to nicotine pouches and other kinds of e-cigs. And they're all doing this, by the way, under the guise of a little phrase called harm reduction. Many of our listeners may not know much about it. Jeff, I know you've talked a little bit about this in the past, but harm reduction is basically a school of thought of, we can't get everybody to stop using drugs, whatever the drug may be. So let's just reduce the harms of those drugs by, making them safer, quote unquote, more regulated, make sure it's pure, make sure that, in the instance of tobacco, hey, smoke-free tobacco, that's harm reduction. And the industry is using this philosophy to say, hey, you're better off. You're actually making a healthy decision using our other nicotine products and not smoking. So you should be proud of yourself for that. Meanwhile, they're addicting these people hopelessly to their product classes. And then ultimately, some of the research is showing people are going and smoking anyway. So, there's this kind of philosophy that's basically a wolf in sheep's clothing that the industry is using very, very well. And they're actually convincing a lot of people to get on board.
Now, Luke, a lot of the arguments that guys like you and me get are, aren't you conservatives? Aren't you kind of let the government let people do what they want? And why does the government always have to step in? Isn't Philip Morris a private business? They want to set up headquarters here. They want to employ people. They're going to bring money to the district. So what's wrong with having them from a conservative free market perspective?
Yeah, and I'll even take that a step further. Particularly with Zyn. So for those of you who know what it is, there's kind of this whole young millennial and downward conservative cult around Zyn right now. And it's kind of like the masculine conservative young man, what he needs is Zyn and to, pull himself up by his bootstraps and whatever. So I'm well aware I'm kind of pushing against the grain of particularly a young conservative male popular item. But, I basically just come from the school of thought that, I think the best example of male masculinity is my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And, he didn't need nicotine or any other kind of chemicals to be a stronger man. And so I think we're given all the tools that we need as men to be manly, to be masculine. And from a conservative perspective, I was raised in the school of conservatism as, individual responsibility and, taking accountability for yourself and actually having the ability to use your reason to make good decisions for yourself. And I see addiction, which is what nicotine products are all about. Addiction is the opposite of liberty. You cannot enjoy the liberty that our founding forefathers fought so hard for if you are addicted to a harmful and damaging substance, whatever that substance is. So I don't think I don't think it fits within the conservative ideology, and I don't think it fits within the future that our forefathers espoused, to have a whole class of millions of Americans addicted, and like this one person said, running like a crackhead from store to store to store, hoping to get their nicotine pouch product. I just don't think you can make rational decisions when you're addicted to substances like this. And also, we lose fathers, we lose parents to this industry every year. And I just don't think we should trust them. So, that's where I fall down on it.
Now, Luke, I do need to point out to you that Jesus did like a good party and oftentimes brought the wine. So,
we could jump into that. We could dive all the way into that, but the history on that is very interesting.
So I want to point out too that, a lot of people are like, well, fentanyl and what it's doing to our country is terrible, which it is, right? Last year, I think we lost about 100,000 Americans to fentanyl. Tobacco is 400,000. So it is 4 times bigger than what we're dealing with and people are like, well, no one overdoses on nicotine or tobacco. And you're like, yeah, they don't. But there's a tremendous amount of health problems that come with it. So you need to have your eyes wide open on that. Billy, you got a question for Luke?
Yeah, Luke, I want to talk. You're talking about the idea of using Zyn as a gateway. And I think you've got some really interesting insight there. What I want to hear from you is a commentary on how effective the anti-tobacco smoking PSAs and movement has been, and why Philip Morris is going after Zyn, as you accurately portrayed, I believe, the gateway to get people back to the cigarettes. Because in my mind, we've persuaded the younger generation that picking up that cancer stick is a bad idea, but you can get the same buzz another way. Once you bring that nicotine into your life and the addiction, making the step from the patch to the stick is really easy. Can you elaborate a little bit more about why this is not necessarily a substitute for the cigarette, but just the way to get you back onto the cigarettes?
Yeah, thank you. And you make some really eloquent points, more eloquent than I think even I can. So thank you, Bill, for that. I think, so basically what we saw was over the last 50 years, there has been a concerted effort. So a lot of people think that Congress, held tobacco to account and we forced the tobacco industry to stop advertising and all those things. We didn't. Just so everyone's clear, private business is covered with constitutional rights in this country. They have the right to free speech. Big tobacco can advertise all they want on radio, TV, etc. The reason why they don't was because they agreed to as a part of a master settlement. So they were very powerful. They took on Congress and essentially won, if you look in a way of looking at it, but they lost in the master settlement, which all of us know about. So, fast forward over the decades later, the funding from that master settlement has gone into very effective advertising campaigns. That is essentially what they focused on, and we've all seen them, is how harmful cigarettes are to your health because of the smoking, because of the carcinogens and the additives. And so they've got the stories of the people who, their throats, they had surgeries, they can barely talk, you can barely hear them. So that was very effective in slowly driving down use. But what I will say is 30% of America still smokes cigarettes. So we haven't been entirely successful. We've just been much better. I mean, it used to be 60%, right? So, that was effective. So what did tobacco have to do? They realized that because of the very public, horrible PR of their cigarettes and the smoking side of it, they could start to pitch what they added to cigarettes, which was nicotine. It wasn't, they didn't have intense amount of nicotine in cigarettes, in tobacco. They added nicotine and kind of, hoodwinked the public, which is why we have the problem we have now. And so they said we could still sell nicotine in other ways that don't involve the smoke, that don't involve what people now know as carcinogens. and basically start to kind of get back in the good graces of the public. So the tobacco industry now calls themselves a harm reduction industry. That's what Altria, which is an affiliated entity of Philip Morris, they say they're a harm reduction company. So they're leaning into this harm reduction methodology to make people feel better about using their products. And they're saying, well, our products are better for you because they don't involve smoke. But what they're not saying, and this is something that researchers said, and I quoted the researchers in my op-ed, they're not telling you that there are other additives that they're putting in these nicotine pouches. There are other additives that they're putting in these e-cigs and in the oils. So we actually don't know a lot about the additives that they're putting in. And so one of the researchers said, we don't have a full picture of the safety profile. We need to do more research. So just like what we had with cigarettes, where we had no idea what they were putting in cigarettes, and we just took their word for it that nicotine wasn't addictive, that these things weren't harmful. Now we have a situation where you have to take their word for it again. Oh, these new products they have, they're actually not going to be as harmful. Well, we don't know that. They also could be carcinogenic. They also could be having a lot of other issues. So, and so finally, to your point about gateway use back to the stick. So, look at Apple, for example. Okay. So for those of you listening, Apple, for just one example, doesn't want you to just use their iPhones. They give you that iPhone. That is the gateway to their other products and services. They want you to subscribe for their Apple Music. They want you to buy their MacBooks, which perfectly integrate with their iPhones. They want you to get their AirPods they don't want you buying other companies' products, right? With Philip Morris, they have not built this new category of products, these nicotine pouches called Zyn, with the idea that, we just want all of America to only use Zyn. Okay, that is not what they want you to do. They are bringing you in to their suite of products, just like Apple does, just like any other company does. And then they're going to push and introduce you to other categories of products, which are also addictive and harmful. And by the way, cigarettes are always going to be there to help you if there's a shortage of Zyn, which is essentially what that person admitted to. So that's kind of how this works. It's a for-profit model. These companies are very smart. They know how to drive you to use other products. Not a good idea when it's an addictive product. And that's why we shouldn't be bringing and celebrating and taxpayers subsidizing a factory to build these products for the country right here in Aurora. I just think it just defies common sense.
Luke Niforatos, Executive Vice President with Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Luke, are you willing to take some calls? We've got absolutely jam-packed phone lines. All right. Let's go. Let's go to Sue in Denver. Sue, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to mention that that once you become a smoker, everything changes with your electronic medical record and with your insurance, because you the rest of your life you have to pay a higher insurance, and you can't get rid of that. Like that, you can say I was a previous smoker, but you're still going to always be considered a smoker, and so it's significant as far as lifelong cost. And I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, it's a decision that looks like it has long-term consequences to it. Sue, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Luke, any response to Sue?
Sue, you're absolutely right about that. And that's a whole other piece of it, is the long-term costs. And again, nobody wants to talk about that when it comes to tobacco or any other kind of addictive substance like marijuana. No one's talking about the long-term costs. Like, for example, I'm starting to get a little older, even though I know I still look young, but I got 2 little girls, I got a wife. So we're thinking about life insurance. Okay. So we got life insurance. First thing I'm asked and they're assessing me for is tobacco use, smoking, because that is one of the critical indicators of your life expectancy, of your future health concerns. Our legal vice drugs, alcohol and tobacco, account for so many of the top 10 morbidities in this country. And so that's just a plain fact. And you can look at the insurance industry to see why. And so that will impact your health insurance. It'll impact your health care. It'll impact your life insurance. And one other thing I talk about in the op-ed, Jeff and Bill, is the fact that we are losing $70 in social costs in this country for every $1 in tobacco taxes, because of all of the downstream costs that we have to pay for healthcare and all the issues and all the lost productivity and all the problems with this industry. So again, it's one thing if they were like, okay, Altria, they got their approvals and Philip Morris got their approvals. They're just going to set up their factory in Aurora and, we don't like it, but we're going to let them do it. That would be one thing. It's something totally different when you have the state's governor and the city's mayor, they're celebrating this and giving them millions of dollars in tax incentives. It just defies common sense.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Jim in Colorado. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, fellas. I don't really like being told what to do because I'm married. So I don't think you should try and keep these people out of Aurora, because there's a whole sequence of events that are going to happen. You keep them out of Aurora. Next, you move on to sugary drinks, and you're going to ban sugary drinks in Aurora. And then, of course, everybody's going to stop drinking them. They're going to be supermodels. All the women are obviously going to move out of Aurora when they're supermodels. That'll leave all the guys behind, right? And probably 49% of them are going to turn gay. But on the positive note, 710 is going to have a lot more listeners then.
Yeah, Luke, are you just trying to turn all the dudes gay? No. What about the response about the idea that where do you stop? Are we going to go into fast food and sugary drinks? Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, point well taken, and I think you're right that we do have to trust people to make their own decisions, of course. But it's one thing to say, okay, well, people are going to make their own decisions. It's another thing to say that we are going to bring a 600,000 square foot factory to produce these deadly or addictive products into our city, and oh, by the way, the taxpayer is going to foot the bill for a part of that, which is exactly what's happening. So I think that those are two different things. The other thing I'll say is, sugar is something that it's naturally occurring. It can be healthy in the right amount. I think we demonize sugar because of what we've learned of the excesses of sugar, but sugar is naturally occurring in fruits and foods, and so there's a reason you have it, right? Nicotine is an addictive chemical that the industry has used very effectively to addict and hurt people. There's no dietary benefit for nicotine, so I do think it's a completely different example. Point well taken about liberty to make our own decisions. And if we want to make unhealthy decisions, we have that right to do that. But I think this is a very different circumstance because we're talking about a giant factory of something that is being designed meticulously to hurt and addict people and reduce their liberty by addicting them. And this industry has beaten our government time and time again. They have lobbied the FDA and overruled even the FDA in many cases. So there's just not a great backstop to protect people's liberty against this industry. And that's my concern.
We're talking with Luke Niforatos. He's the executive vice president of Smart Approaches to Marijuana about an effort to build a new Zyn factory. Zyn is a tobacco product, a nicotine product that's produced by Philip Morris. We got a text message here about where in Aurora they're building it. It looks like, from reporting, this is going to be out by the airport, just east of E470 and north of I-70. So that's where the factory is, just right there, so they can put it on planes and fly it all around the world. Luke, we want to continue with you and the phone calls. We got to get to a break here. Billy, why don't you talk a little bit about balanced well space?
Yeah, we've been talking about things that you can do that can damage your body. Well, I am a walking, talking warning sign. As my dad said, I have an underdeveloped sense of fear, and that has led to a long term of things that just, okay, to be honest, they hurt. They hurt a lot. I've been living my life in pain, and I know that you're going through the same thing. There are those aches, those pains, those things like neuropathy, stuff that's wrong with your back. The problem that you have is when something hurts, your body compensates, and eventually something else begins to hurt. I am working with an amazing team, Balance Well Space. The thing that makes a difference in my life is it's a one-stop shop. I used to be going all over town, chiropractic here, look at physical rehabilitation over there, some other regenerative medicine somewhere else, but now I have got chiropractic, neuropathy, physical rehab, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more, along with some amazing cutting-edge therapies. They're going to be doing some antioxidant stuff on me later on today. I'm really excited, and I'll tell you about what's going on, but here's the difference. Those daily aches and pains, it doesn't have to be that way. You can start living your life like it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. My lower back, the bottom two vertebrae are starting to fuse together. It is constant pain, but I'm not in pain anymore. After just about 12, 13 appointments with Balance Well Space and their team of professionals, my back feels like it's 10 years younger. I don't have the constant aches, the pains, the movement is fantastic. And I also don't have the sciatica, the tingling, the numbness that runs down my legs. It's absolutely incredible. And they're doing the same thing for my messed up neck. I want you to talk to the team, Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, Sarah, B, everybody that takes care of me, so they can help you like they're helping me. Reach out to them, balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. Couldn't be easier to find. Also, plenty of parking. All Denverites understand this. Trying to find somewhere to park can be absolutely ridiculous, sometimes even in Lowry. You know, the Officers Club is? It's right across the street from there. It is super easy. What they do is they'll do an entire evaluation for you and then create a custom plan. That's the difference. Is the plan is custom tailored for you. They'll reevaluate you regularly. When's the last time your team of doctors got together to talk about you? I know I could wait the next hour or so and there wouldn't be an answer because they don't. That's the problem. At Balance WellSpace, the team gets together every couple of weeks, reevaluates your care, and asks you about it. I just went through another reevaluation a couple of days ago and had more movement in one of my hips than I have in years. A 30% difference without pain after 12 to 13 visits. They can do the same thing for you. BalanceWellSpace.com. Make sure you don't have to live with that pain anymore. BalanceWellSpace.com.
All right, we'll continue with Luke Niforatos and your calls. Give us a call if you'd like. 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking with Luke Niforatos, Executive Vice President for Purpose to Marijuana, challenging the reasoning of state officials of bringing in a Philip Morris Zyn factory out in Aurora near the airport. Officials saying that's going to bring lots of jobs. It's going to bring lots of revenue, and we're even going to add some tax revenue there. But Luke pointing out that we're getting in the business of getting a lot of people addicted to things that are probably not good for them and going to lead to other health problems. And is this really good for our state to be doing? Let's go to the phone lines. Julie in Aurora, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi. I just wanted to mention the fact, too, I live in a house with multiple teenagers, and we have confiscated quite a few of those Zyn packets in our house. We like to have the kids bring their friends over a lot and, get to know them and stuff like that. But still, we have found this when we talk to them about it, they say they're getting them from their friends' older brothers or things like that buy them because they're illegal for these teenage kids. But still, they're still finding a way to get them, and it's very concerning.
Yeah, it seems to be really, really popular among teenage boys right now because it gives them that kind of tobacco thing, but not necessarily with the tobacco. Luke, any comments on that?
Yeah, no, Julie, I thank you for bringing that concern out. The industry's been lying, saying, these are even harder for kids to get to and whatever, but they have all the flavors that are targeting kids clearly. And these products are, much more inviting to younger demographics also. That's something that no one's talking about. For a teenager to try smoking, it's a little more scary than putting a little pouch in between your teeth and your lip. And so, that's something that the FDA is actually looking at right now. There's actually a chance that this product class could actually get banned or, severely restricted potentially in the coming years by the FDA. I won't hold my breath, but thank you for sharing that, because that's another thing I address in my op-ed is that the products, the design and the flavors are clearly appealing to our kids. And it's not like this is novel. This is Philip Morris's track record for decades. They got an entire generation of our youth addicted to their cigarettes. They lied about the addictive potential of nicotine. They lied about the carcinogenic effects of these cigarettes. They bogusly funded research telling people like you, Julie, moms, parents, people who were losing loved ones to these products. They said, the research says cigarettes had nothing to do with it, right? And then, of course, we find out, they were lying. And it was too late. Millions of people addicted. There's nothing we can do because now a giant proportion of this of our population is addicted to these products unknowingly. And so, we can't trust this company specifically. We can't trust this industry. And so for our top state official, Governor Polis, to say that, we're going to pave the roads in gold for this industry, we're going to celebrate with the CEO of this company that they're coming to town, it just defies common sense. We can't trust this industry. We can't pay them, courtesy of the taxpayers, to come to our state. And that is exactly what's happening.
Julie, appreciate the call. We're going to get through as many calls as we can here before the hour wraps. Let's go to Frank in Denver. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning. First I want to tell Julie that teenageism is not a terminal illness. It only lasts for about 4 or 5 years, and they will get over it. But Luke, I want to thank you for bringing this topic to the public. I think that I got another topic for you since you're such a vigorous writer, and the topic would be why capitalism will always win out over communism. And that is that just the topic that you're writing about, that capitalism will always take a subject like this, or a substance which is has good and bad effects to some things, stimulant effects, but at too higher concentration. Nicotine is a poison. It's used as an insecticide in higher concentrations, but they're playing on the addiction tendency of man. And that's kind of my main point, is to say that they should be, in these tobacco settlement things, should be required to send some percentage of their settlement to research for addictionology, to kind of help maybe find another.
Yeah, Luke, what's your thoughts on that? We got about 30 seconds. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, great point. So they are doing that. I mean, that's what happened with the tobacco settlement. There are literally billions of dollars flowing to organizations to study, to educate the public. Yet we still have 30% of Americans using this. We still are losing, as Jeff said, between 400 and 500,000 Americans every year. One American every year is not good enough for me, let alone 400,000 or 500,000 Americans die. That's families torn apart by this industry. So you make a great point, though, about capitalism and how innovative and incredible it is. It unleashes the potential of business, but we cannot allow capitalism to unleash the potential of the addiction for profit business. We can't allow them to do that. We have to keep that industry out.
That's where virtue comes into it. Frank, appreciate the call. Luke Niforatos, he's Executive Vice President of Smart Approaches to Marijuana. If you want to follow him on X, go to Luke Niforatos. His last name is spelled Niforatos. Luke, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill program today.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you as always for your insightful analysis. You guys are truly the best. Keep it up.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Luke. I want to talk to you about my friend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Look, if you've got to sell your home, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team are by far the best agents in Colorado. They guarantee the sale, ensuring a seamless process and eliminating the stress while getting you the best price. You can get paid twice with their Sell with Certainty program. Your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it could be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. They commit to selling your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of the asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call today at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE has thebuyers.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Been an absolutely wonderful show. You can download the podcast at 710knus.com. Tomorrow, we have the director of the new Matt Walsh film joining us. You're not going to want to miss it. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.